The Michael K. Show on Yes is presented by Untuck It. Shirts designed to be worn untucked. Shop now at untuckit.com.
Joining us on this Friday, July 30th, 2024. It's Michael and Don today until 6:30. Peter is in Germany for a WWE event. We thank you all for joining us, and we go and start off the show on a somber note. Don, when I heard about what happened to the Gaudreau brothers, it hurt my heart. Obviously, 2 young lives taken, 2 widows created, kids without dads, but they were in town to attend their sister's wedding tomorrow, and they got run over while riding a bike, and they both lost their lives. I don't even know how to articulate how I feel, Don. It's just so awful.
Imagine it. We're both fathers. We're both brothers. We're members of families, and we've had our tragedies in our life, Michael. But nothing. I can't even imagine what they're going through. In every stage, as you said, the parents, his parents, are preparing for their daughter's wedding. That was supposed to happen today, and it's probably ranking in one of the greatest days of their life. And their family is all coming to South Jersey to be reunited from different areas of the country and to celebrate this amazing day of their daughter getting married. And it goes from one of the greatest weekends of their life to the worst day of their life, instantaneously. To lose 2 sons like that at the same time, I can't even imagine going through that. I can't imagine what the parents are going through. I can't imagine what their sister's going through on a day that's supposed to be so joyous for her. I can't even imagine them getting married today or going through with any kind of a ceremony. And then I can't imagine Johnny's wife and 2 infant kids to have no dad, to become a widow like that. I just can't imagine. I've been gutted today, Michael. I did not know Johnny well, but I did meet him. I did talk to him. I was so prideful to have somebody from New Jersey excel in the National Hockey League the way that he did. So I rooted for him. I watched him. When I called a game in Calgary, I made sure I went over and talked to him in the morning skate. And he grew up in Salem County, which is a suburb of Philadelphia, so he was an Eagle fan, and his favorite player was Donovan McNabb, and we talk about that. And I would just, he's such a wonderful, wonderful kid and a wonderful player and such a gentleman. And to just have it all end like that is just, I can't imagine what that family's going through, Michael.
According to police, a driver of a Jeep Grand Cherokee hit the Gaudreaus from behind while trying to pass an SUV on the right that had moved over to make way for the 2 pedal cyclists. According to the report now, the driver is suspected of being under the influence of alcohol and has been charged with 2 counts of death by auto. The investigation is ongoing. It's unspeakable. It's unimaginable. We say this over and over and over again. I've seen the mugshot of the guy. He's not a young guy. Not that he's old.
43.
43 years old.
Yeah.
Dude, if you're going to drink, just take an Uber. Why would you risk your life and other people? I don't want to preach. It's not for me to do. But goodness gracious, you just devastated a family. You devastated a family because you allegedly got behind the wheel of a car after having too much to drink. And, you know, we could say this till we're blue in the face, Don. I don't think it's ever going to stop, because I think once you get drunk, right, you probably don't think you're drunk because you're drunk. So you're not thinking right. And the only way I think that this could ever stop is if they installed in every car, if you're going to start the car, you have to breathe into it. That's it. Because, again, I don't think you're of the right mind when you're drunk to think, oh, I'm not right to drive, I'm going to take an Uber. You don't think you're drunk. So, just awful. Just an awful story. You get a feeling in the pit of your stomach when you go and you start to think what that family's going through at this moment right now as we speak on a sports talk show. It's just sickening to think.
Yeah, and I guess the report was he admitted to having 5-6 beers. He doesn't look like that big of a guy. So you would think, Michael, if I had 5-6 beers, I don't know if I'd be able to walk to the car, never mind drive it. But there's a self-importance, there's an arrogance to people sometimes, and it's just unbelievable to have to go through that. So whether you knew the family, knew him, hockey fan, not a hockey fan, I think everybody can really feel for what happened earlier today. When I saw it, when I woke up this morning, I was just in a daze about it happening. So, I mean, there's nothing we can really do other than just try to keep things in perspective, right? It's moments like this, Michael. Unfortunately, it fades away over time. But as you get upset about your Yankees and Mets or your Giants or Jets or about traffic on Labor Day weekend or the fact that it's supposed to rain later today, the little things that bother us and irk us and drive us crazy really puts those moments in perspective, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it does go away over time, but just as aggravated as you may be about different things today, just imagine what that family's feeling right now.
That's right. It'll never go away for that family. This is a day that will live with them forever, and it's heartbreaking, so our condolences to that family, but words don't mean anything after what happened yesterday, so we're really sorry. Yeah. And, we wanted to start the show because we always call the show the toy store, the candy store, where real life doesn't really pierce reality, but we also don't want to disrespect. And we just wanted to know what went on, and a member of our community who made it has his life snuffed out by a driver who had 6 beers and decided to drive. Yeah,
that was more important for him to be able to get from point A to point B than people's lives. And sometimes when these things happen, we kind of exaggerate the greatness of a player. He was great, Michael. He was an outstanding, won the Hobie Baker Award for Best College Player, had a 115-point season his last year in Calgary, 8 years in Calgary, 6 of them he was an all-star. And the one game I remember in Calgary, it was Rangers Flames, it went into overtime. And Dave nudged me, and then he said, he goes, "Do you hear the crowd?" Because I'm calling the game, so I'm not paying attention to what's happening like on the bench. That it's 3-on-3, and he was so electric that whenever he'd leave the ice, the fans would kind of groan, and then when he'd flip that one leg over the boards to jump back into the play, the place would explode and get excited. He was so much fun to watch. He was diminutive in size. It was just a tremendous story that he was that kind of a player, and he wanted to sign with Columbus. He wanted to be a little bit closer to home, and spent 4 years there, and so he was. So it's such pride to be from Jersey. New Jersey's had some really nice hockey players, but nobody like this. And it was just a tremendous amount of pride to be from New Jersey, to watch him play, watch him grow into becoming a superstar player. And just so tragic that we're not going to get a chance to see that anymore.
Did he ever have a chance, Don? Did it ever come close that he could play for the Rangers or anything like that?
Well, there was talk about the Devils, because when he was a free agent, there was some speculation the Devils had some room and were talking to him. So I guess that's the closest he came, I think, playing for a local team. But Columbus came up with the 7-year contract that he signed. But that was as close, I think, him returning to the area. His 2 kids were born in Columbus. And just gut-wrenching story. Sean Monahan, who played with him in Calgary, it was just 3 days ago they replayed the interview. I almost couldn't watch it. That he signed there because he was such good friends with Gaudreau and wanted to play with him and never got a chance to do that. Kevin Hayes, they went to school together, great friends at each other's weddings. Kevin lost his brother recently and now loses Johnny. Listen, all sports are a tight community, but hockey especially for American-born players, guys that went to college together. So, Michael, this affected just so many people beyond just his family, and just it's really difficult for anybody that knew him or anybody that followed him. It's just sick to my stomach this morning.
On a more mundane front, this is our final show ever on 98.7 FM. It's obviously simulcast on 880, and starting on Monday with our show, it will be on 880, 101.1 HD2 on the FM side, and obviously on the ESPN app, or on yes, that's starting on Tuesday. Monday, we're off on Labor Day. And I just wanted to say, Don, 12 years on this frequency, it's been a blast. It's been a great frequency for us. We conquered a lot of things that many people said couldn't be conquered. We finished first overall, not just on sports shows, but we finished first, and we were riding high on 98.7, and then the pandemic hit, and that had unbelievable consequences for us. Forget about the terrible things that it did to the world.
Sure.
But 98.7 has been very, very good to us, and we want to thank the people of 98.7, the people that we leased this from. It meant a lot. It changed the course of this station's history, and there's a little bit of sadness in saying goodbye to it, but knowing that we are now on a flamethrower on the AM side of 880. I was listening to Bart and Hahn, and people were calling in, and they're getting the station easily in Boston. We're driving down the eastern seaboard of the United States, they're hearing 880. So it's a great signal, and we're so thrilled that our bosses decided to lease this out. But it's somewhat melancholy leaving 98.7 because we did some really cool things on 98.7.
No, major turning point in this radio station's history. But to be a little bit lighthearted, if you don't mind, who is the biggest name that pops into your head when you think about 98.7?
Biggest name.
I don't want to be political. That'll give you a bit of a hint.
You don't want to be political.
Yes.
I don't know.
Mike Huckabee pops into my head.
Why?
Because when we converted to 98.7, a lot of work was dumped on Mike Brownshire. And we had a party.
He's our imaging guy.
He's our imaging guy, Mike Brownshire, who Michael describes as a melted candle. So you can have a mental image of
a
Mike
snur.
Brownshire. Right. And the night before was our dinner with Mark Sanchez, where we had listeners and clients, and Mike had, he indulged. So all of a sudden, and on that night, we made the announcement we moved to 98.7. So he was a tad bit dehydrated the next day, and he had to do all of the re-imaging from 1050 to 98.7, and he ended up having an episode where he passed out. Michael was in the room when Mike passed out, and you ran to try to get help.
It was a weird pass out. It wasn't like
right.
a pass out that I've ever seen before. It's like it kind of went down to the ground in stages.
Like his battery was dying.
Yeah.
And you were concerned, so you ran out, and the person, I guess, that you ran into or knew what to do was Mike Huckabee, because he was doing something at ABC, and
right.
Mike Huckabee was able to stabilize, went to the hospital. It turned out he was fine. He was just dehydrated. He was doing so much work and everything, but that's a story. Every time I think of that conversion to 98.7, I think about that wacky incident. But I remember Justin Craig saying to us, everything that you did before us going to 98.7, forget about it. This is a game changer. And I was kind of insulted. I'm like, we worked our tails off on 1050 to kind of build an audience and everything. But he was absolutely right, Michael. It was such a turning point for us. It was such a better signal. It really put us out there, put us in a position to finally win, which we definitely took advantage of. So it's tough to see it go, but I'm hoping for bigger and better things now with this shift. I was listening to Rick and Dave, and a guy a truck driver saying he was able to get the station in Delaware the other day. So this is big for us too. But I'm glad you brought it up, because it's not just all right, we're moving on, let's forget about it. There was an amazing 12 years on that frequency.
I mean, just to put it this way, when Don and I got together and started the afternoon drive show with Joey, the big guy on the top of the hill was a radio icon. It was Mike Francesa. At which point he called us a pea shooter. We would never even come close to him. And then to finally beat him, there was a lot of times that we were really, really close. And, at that point, we even got close. But then when we finally beat him, that was amazing. We beat everybody they put in front of us, including Evan and Craig. And then the pandemic hit, and radio changed, and listeners changed, and the way people drove in their cars changed, and it did affect us. It really did. But just to be able to beat an iconic figure who, when the history of radio is written for sports talk, Don, they're going to talk about Mike Francesa, and we were able to knock him down. So that was on this frequency. And you know what I'm going to do right now if you're watching on Yes?
What is that?
I'm going to take down the 98.7 magnet, because this doesn't work anymore, right? After today.
No, and
we're gonna have to get new
honestly,
magnets and whatever, new backgrounds.
Yeah, I would symbolically bring my background down right now, but I need to kind of check during the break to make sure there's nothing behind it.
Yeah, it could be somebody nude.
So nobody nude, but
how do you know? You don't know.
I think I would know if there was somebody nude back there. But yeah, so it's a cool day. It's an interesting transition, but it was 12. That's the other thing too, Michael. 12 years ago, really.
Wow.
Jeez.
Unbelievable times. So there we go. Start off the show that way. It's game time, brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey. Mets start a series at the White Sox in Chicago with coverage starting at 7:30 right here on 880. The Yankees are home facing the Cardinals at 7:05. That'll be on Yes, and the Liberty face the Storm at 10. That's game time, brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it's Tully time. Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew. Try the brand new Tullamore Dew Honey during tonight's action. Glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. Now, we don't do much college football on the show, but interesting stuff yesterday. You know, Rutgers is playing Howard, and they kind of put the pedal to the metal and scored when the game was over, essentially over. And that ended up covering the number. I mean, that's why you can't just ignore the fact that betting is legal now. These things jump out at you, Don, when a team scores when they don't have to. So Greg Schiano, the head coach of Rutgers, addressed scoring and kind of like rubbing it in against Howard. Hello? Is that going to happen, guys?
You have to ask Larry that. You know, I have a lot of respect for Coach Scott. I think he does a great job with his program. Obviously, they're back-to-back champions. He's a competitor, I'm a competitor, and everybody sees things a little differently, right? You see it through your lens. So, you watched the game, you saw it, so you can draw your conclusions. I'm very comfortable with the way that we handle our team, that I handle our team, and if I wasn't, I'd tell you that too.
All right, so then why did you run up the score on the final play?
Guys practiced all training camp. They deserve to play. It's not, there was no running it up. If it was running it up, you don't use timeouts when you have the ball. You let the game end. That wasn't retaliatory. We were going to run plays. We bring in a team to play us. We bring them here, and we bring them in, right? We got to win, and we got to get reps. And they were there. We took them.
I'll tell you what, Don, there's no honor anymore. There's no honor. You see it in every level of athletic endeavor. People rub it in. When you see, They have these homecoming games that are scheduled where a team takes a lot of money to get steamrolled by the Ohio States of the world and the Michigans of the world. And there's no honor anymore. There's just not. So, I mean, can I sit here and really get mad at Greg Schiano? These are the new rules of the game. And I'm sorry, I don't like them. I think there should be sportsmanship involved. I mean, you won the game, but it is somewhat curious that you, quote unquote, ran your plays. And by running your play, you ended up covering a big number.
I'm kind of torn, because you know how I feel from the professional standpoint. Entertain me, clown. So I go out there and run up the score. You're professionals. You're getting paid. Hey, that's you don't like it, stop them. But I do think in college and high school, maybe it's a little bit different, especially under these circumstances. Rutgers, Howard, they were a 30-plus point favorite in the game. I don't know if you need to have to humiliate them. But then at the same time, they're all judged, right? Is there a difference between 37-7 and 44-7 when later in the season it's determining what bowl you're going to go to? Or, probably not for Rutgers, but like playoff eligibility? I know it's different than it was when it was just a pure ranking where scores mattered, but could it help Rutgers down the road that they won by 7 more points than they would have if they had taken a knee? I don't know. I mean, this is the same guy, if you remember, when he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, were diving for the ball when the Giants were taking a knee in their victory formation. He said, hey, we played to the final whistle. So I don't think it has anything to do with him covering the number. I think that was just coincidence from a Schiano standpoint.
Yeah, but you can't just ignore that, Don. They were minus 38. All of a sudden, they covered.
No, I get it, but I think this is just how Schiano is. I really don't think it had anything to do with the number. I think it was just pure coincidence. But if you want to argue that side of it, I guess you might have a say just because of how the game turned out. I just think he plays to the final whistle. I just don't know in those circumstances doesn't make a lot of sense to humiliate your opponent that way. But that's who he is, and I think on college it's a little bit different.
See, one thing I'll push back on you though, it's not college anymore. It's professional sports. They all get paid. I'm sorry, it's not college anymore. So it's not these kids carrying their books under their arms through the quad. These are professional athletes that are getting paid a tremendous amount of money.
Well,
now, less in Rutgers than maybe in Ohio State, but they are getting paid.
And a lot less at Howard, too. So it is kind of weird, right? Like, where money's exchanging hands for these matchups. I mean, listen, Rutgers has Howard on the schedule to pulverize them. I mean, that's the point of it, right?
Yep.
And Howard agrees to it because it gives them a little bit of national exposure, getting to play. So it's all a business transaction at the end of the day. So you're right. I mean, I think there is a difference between college and pros still, but you make a very good point. It's a business transaction. Howard knew their role. Their role was to get pulverized and get paid to have it happen. And Rutgers wants to run up the score because that might help them at some point. The difference between playing in the Poinsettia Bowl and some other bowl. I don't know, but I guess. I think if you're Howard, you kind of have to just get over it, right? I mean, I think you got to put feelings aside. It's big boy stuff now, and you're right. They are getting paid.
It's amazing. I was talking to a guy who has the inside scoop on the Big Ten, right? Tells you how much money is being exchanged now. So we know that players getting $1 million to come play for big-time schools. Don, they're now handing out money for people to visit. Like a kid wanted to go, I'm not going to name the school, wanted to visit a big-time Big Ten school. You could guess who it is. And demanded $10,000 just to visit. And got it. So let's not look at it it's not an educational vehicle anymore. It's professional sports, and it's a minor league system for the NFL. And it's only the NFL could get away with not putting a dime into their minor league system.
They went from student athletes, Michael, to athletes that happen to be students.
Right. And they're probably not even students, a lot of them.
And I think to me that's a big distinction. It's not the way it was before. And do I think that they deserve to have some sort of compensation? But this still doesn't feel right to me, Michael. It doesn't. I don't think these kids should be taken advantage of when their images are used in video games and on posters and autograph sessions and stuff. Like, I do think that they were taking advantage back in the day. But is this the answer? Is this really what college sports are supposed to be? A minor league system? Or, I don't know if the old system wasn't right, but this doesn't feel right either.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's just the pendulum swung too far the other way. And there has to be some kind of system in place where it's not the wild, wild west. And, we're talking about Rutgers scoring that extra touchdown, but you can't feel sorry anymore because just think about it. You said they used to be student athletes. Now they're athletes, maybe think about it. They don't have to go to class anymore because they keep transferring every single year. So you don't even have to go to class the first semester. You're playing, and then, okay, when you flunk out, you go to another school, get another $1 million. That's what we're dealing with. But college football has never been more popular.
And I don't. This was such a long time ago, and I remember somebody really getting on me on Twitter when I said that Alabama could find itself in a little bit of trouble compared to some schools like Stanford and Oregon just because of their alumni. And the guy was like, you're crazy. This is Alabama. I get it's Alabama. It's a great program. But do their alumni have the money that Oregon alumni have, that Stanford alumni have, that
there's a reason Nick Saban's doing TV, Don.
Yeah, because, listen, we know how big Alabama is, and I'm not saying that
their endowment is not what other schools' endowment is.
And when you look at what these guys used to do illegally as alumni to be able to get kids to come to their school, now they can do it, and it's legal. So you don't think that some of these schools, Michael, it becomes big market, small market. And I'm sorry, Alabama's a small market compared to some of these schools that maybe aren't known to be winners and have the winning pedigree that an Alabama has. But when it comes to big-time money and endowments, Michael, the game has changed. There's a handful of schools now that put themselves in a much better position than other schools, despite the history telling you otherwise.
Now, just to clarify one thing, the TD that Rutgers scored yesterday hit the over. They didn't cover the number. If they were allowed to kick the point after attempt, they would have covered the number as well. So they ended up pushing.
Well, but you know what? I get that, but people get different numbers. I mean, maybe ESPN Bet had it at 38. You know, people might have. I bet you that touchdown affected the spread as well, depending on where you bet it, when you bet it. But I understand what you're saying. I don't think Shiano even knew what the spread was. I really don't.
No, I don't think so either. I just think he's putting his foot on their throat. But because gambling is so prevalent now, you've got to be aware of that stuff.
Well, what I would tell anybody that gambles on Rutgers football, then you better gamble that Shiano's going to play until the clock zeroes out. So maybe that means that you should bet the over. Maybe it bets that they're going to cover the number. You know, it's a lot of times when you see these big spreads, you're like, because what is it, Ohio State, Akron's like 49.5 or something crazy like that. Like, I would think, all right, they're probably going to call off the dogs in the fourth quarter. Shiano doesn't do that, so bet accordingly.
All right, we got a lot of stuff to do. We'll take some phone calls, talk about the Mets, a good day for them, a win, and then a shocking Braves loss to the Phillies. Yankees start a 3-game series against the Cardinals, where they'll try to bounce back after losing 2 out of 3 in D.C. Not sleeping?
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're so happy that Ian O'Connor, who's a big-time author, I mean, he doesn't even, look at us off the air. He's that big. He has made his way into the studio to talk about his new Aaron Rodgers book, Out of the Darkness, and I read the whole thing.
Darkness.
And I'll start off. Ian, first of all, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
And the book, you can get on Amazon now, goes on sale worldwide tomorrow.
Correct.
All right. Barnes.
The whole deal.
All right.
Can I say something about this show first?
Sure.
Okay. Because this show has meant, obviously, a lot to me. I'm very happy you guys. I'm sad you're leaving the station. Very happy you're going to an iconic home. But listen, I'm a 4-time New York Times bestseller in large part because of your show. So really 2 places, 2 juggernaut places. This show and Bookends in Ridgewood, which I'll be at Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Cool.
But they've sold 1,500 of my 4 New York Times bestsellers out of that store.
Wow.
And you guys, I think, have probably sold more than that. I really believe that. I think this show has done more for me than any show in getting those books on the list, and hopefully the same thing applies.
That's really cool. Great. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad we could do it. We like to think of ourselves as the new Oprah. Yeah, right?
You get a book. Close enough, man.
Yeah, everybody gets a book. All right, so I'm going to start off with what I texted you the other day. All the people you spoke to. Also mentioned our show in it, too, which I like.
I did. More than once, I think.
Yeah, more than once. I like him less after reading the book. I mean, he comes off as an incredible know-it-all. Now, I don't mind smart people. I mind people that are smart that tell you they're the smartest guy in the room. I get that sense from him just from this book. Are you hearing that from people that have read it, or are you hearing other things?
I'm hearing more of the opposite, that they like him more. But that's... And it's interesting. I never want to tell the reader what to feel about the subject. My job, I think, is to paint the full picture, and then you decide, and Don decides, and Peter decides. And he's a very polarizing guy, and the last 3-4 years, it's been all negative. And a lot of it has been self-generated, self-inflicted wounds, unforced errors. The funny thing is, when I first thought that this book would sell, is off your show, your interview with him after his introductory press conference, which you guys rated.
We loved him.
Yeah.
He was great.
And he brought it. He knew that he had to bring it for you guys, and he did. And my wife, Tracy, you know her. She's a Mets fanatic, but she's not a football fan. She's driving around listening to your interview with him. She comes home and she says, I could have listened to Aaron Rodgers talk for 2 hours. And when I heard a woman who's not a football fan say that, I thought, I think I have something here. Mm-hmm. And I think I do, and that's totally fine. If you like him less, I would say 7 out of 10 people have told me they like him more, who've read it. Obviously, not too many people have read it yet because it's officially out tomorrow. But so that's fine. I don't want to make that decision. I want you to make that decision.
Did you like him more? That to me is more important. You spent time with him.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I did. I didn't know him. I've never really met him. I've asked him questions in a few press conferences. And in part, he could have made my life a lot more difficult with this book, like Belichick did. Belichick not only didn't talk to me, and he didn't me anything, so I wasn't upset about it. But he also recruited people to not talk to me. Aaron didn't do that, and also he sat down with me at the end of the process. So I have to admit, there's a little bias there that the guy did actually help me.
Right.
And he agreed to talk about things he doesn't talk about, his family estrangement, the mistake he made with COVID. He admitted that mistake. He's never admitted any mistake about anything.
He's not a big I'm sorry guy.
I don't think I've ever heard him say those words, but you would, I think, agree that most of the greats never because they feel they say they're sorry in another arena, they're bringing that weakness and fault into the competitive arena, and that's not a good thing. But I think I do like him a little more. Fearless public speaker, and on a certain level, I respect that a lot because I'm not. And I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he's been through a lot in his life, and he's been under-evaluated and misevaluated as a football player his entire career, and I think he brought that and still has that, and I think that has led to some of this digging in against the media on some fronts that he shouldn't bother defending, but feels he has to. So I think I have a better understanding of him. He helped me with the book, and so I think I like him a little bit more.
He's not really overly political in the sense of taking a side of red or blue, but it does feel the defenders of him or the haters of him are coming from that side. That's what I feel like. Like that interview you talked about when we had him on, I thought he was fairly neutral. He was fun. He was engaging. He came across as really a great guy. And really, for the most part, that whole season before he got hurt and all that he was saying all the right things and wasn't being over-controversial. I find that people that defend Rodgers defend him for two reasons. They defend him because they're a Jet fan and just want to win with him, or they agree with what he says. And the people that don't like him are either not Jet fans or don't agree with what he says. Like, I don't even know if people have an opinion on him. I feel like people just have opinions on his opinions. And if they agree with him, they're all for it. And if they don't, because he's so polarizing, because he definitely takes a side on everything. So I really don't know how to feel about him because you can't get beyond the opinion.
Yeah. And listen, if he wins big with the Jets, a lot of this is going away. You guys know how it works. Victory does not equal virtue, but a lot of times it gets confused with virtue. If he goes to the Super Bowl, gets to the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, and makes his team a winner, a lot of that stuff's going away. Now, particularly if he wins a Super Bowl, which it's improbable, but it's doable. Don, I don't know what you think. I actually think it probably would be bigger than Messier in '94, simply because the NFL is bigger.
Yes.
I think it would be the biggest New York sports story of our lifetime. And I do want to cover that. I was 4 years old when the Jets won the Super Bowl, so I have flickering black and white images of it on my uncle's TV. And I'm turning 60 in 10 days, and I want to see the Jets back in the Super Bowl. And this guy taking them there would wipe away a lot of on-field and off-field sins.
And you mentioned, well, because football's bigger than hockey, but, you know, Messier had the guarantee. Messier had the hat-trick against the Devils. Like, he really contributed. It's hard not to contribute as a quarterback.
That's true.
I guess he could win it the way Peyton Manning won in Denver, but I don't see that happening. I don't know if the Jets are that good beyond Rodgers for that to happen, but I guess he would have to contribute in some way, but I can't imagine him not contributing as a quarterback of an NFL team to a championship.
That's right. And Messier won those 5 in Edmonton, and it's funny, today, people only talking about the 6th.
Right.
It's like those 5 almost didn't happen. And I think Aaron looks at Tom Brady. He's got 7. I've got 1. And that's why he wanted to trade to the Jets. He saw a wonderful opportunity because I can't close that gap. I'm not winning 6 Super Bowls before I retire. But if I win one for a franchise that hasn't been in the Super Bowl since January of '69, it's going to feel like 3 rings.
It's so true.
And his legacy, I won one with an iconic Packers franchise, and I ended a biblical drought with the Jets in New York City. Man, that's going to explode.
It's like the anti-Bucks one. Like the Bucks one, don't get me wrong, it's cool for Brady, especially given the whole Belichick story. But him going to Tampa and winning it with the kind of market that it is, it almost feels like half a Super Bowl relative to Rodgers winning one in New York.
And a big part of your book, and I'm glad it served this for me, I don't have the greatest memory of, like, minutia from... He's not that great in postseason games.
No, he's 11 and 10.
Yeah, 11 and 10. And he's never... I mean, on good teams.
Yeah, I would say Rodgers and Mahomes are the 2 greatest physically, and then they're... But I'll push back a little bit on that. They win in 2010. In 2011, they're 15-1. They're dominating the league. They should have two-peated that year. They lose to the Giants. I was there. And unfortunately, the offensive coordinator, Joe Philbin, his son drowned that week. And that really impacted that team in a profound way. And that's not talked about because it's difficult to talk about something like that in football context. But going to football in 2013 through 2016, those are 4 opportunities he had, especially in magic ways in that situation, in all 4 of those seasons, and it's just loss. And that's what the box score says. But if you think about and go back and look at some of the moments he had in those 4 years, and you would have to say he's a player.
And
back-to-back Hail Marys.
I do want to push back against myself on this. I think from this book, just reading the detail, Mike McCarthy did not do him any favors. Not a great coach. If he had Bill Belichick, as you mentioned in the book, he'd have 6 Super Bowls.
I don't know if he'd have 6. Chris Sims thinks he'd have 8. I do think Tom Brady had an intangible that somehow Rodgers didn't have. But physically, when you go back and look at tape of those games in his prime, he was so much better than Tom Brady physically. His teammates told me that, Ryan Grant and others. This is like, Brady, are you kidding me? Compared to Aaron Rodgers? Watch him play against Atlanta in the divisional round in the year he won the Super Bowl. It was ridiculous. You just can't play the position any better than that ever. And it's a shame. He's too good to retire with 1 ring. That's why I do hope it happens for the fatalistic Jet fan base, but also for him because he's worthy of that, and I do want to see that happen.
So, did we get anywhere with the family estrangement thing? I mean, it seems like we know how his family feels, and the stuff you did on that is pretty remarkable. I mean, his family does seem obviously very hurt, also very much willing to reconcile. We know that they sort of believe that this happened because of his relationship with Olivia Munn. But where do you end up landing on the family estrangement?
Well, I ended up driving the parents to the 9/11 game last September, and it was strange because they're estranged from him for going up on 10 years now, and I'm driving them to MetLife Stadium, and it's the only time they get to be in the same room with him. Is a football stadium. So you go to some games. They went to some home openers in Green Bay. It's their son, even though they don't speak. So, and they told me that this is a testament to Jets fans, that after the injury, as heartbroken as they were for their flesh and blood, that game and that crowd was so energized, and then, of course, the dramatic finish, that in the 3rd quarter, they became Jets fans. They were wearing Jets gear. The people around them had no idea who they were, but that night, they became Jets fans, and then I had to walk out to my car and drive them home. And I'm thinking, I had put this station on my radio and gave them the keys, and so you can hear the post-game press conferences with your son and Robert Saleh. I had no idea that their son would not give a post-game press conference because he was driven home by his friend Aubrey Marcus in the middle of the game. So I go to the car, and I was really apprehensive. It was a strange drive home to Montclair. They had an Airbnb there because they wanted to run into Aaron. They didn't because he lives a mile or 2 away from where they were staying. But that drive home was surreal. I became an Uber driver. I was not going to speak unless they spoke to me because they were sitting in their silence and their suffering. It was a tough night.
Well, you know, I was really interested in that because I can't imagine not talking to my parents. I mean, they're not here anymore. I wish I had the opportunity to talk to them more.
Or your kids.
Or my kids.
Yeah.
To completely shut off your family. And although you did exhaustive research and you talked to the parents, I still don't know what's wrong. The only thing I get is, and this is just, I'm surmising from the book, they are overly religious, and I think he's kind of over it. But that why cut your parents off by that? I don't know why he's not talking to them.
Right, and I'm not sure he totally does either, and his parents aren't sure. And so family fractures, everybody wants a singular reason, one defined reason or development or issue. And I thought I'd find that too when I started the research and talking to them, but it's very complicated. Religion was a part of it early because he was raised devoutly religious. He rebelled against that, and that did plant a seed for other rebellions. And Olivia Munn was part of it. She was not to blame completely, even though the parents believe she is. And because Aaron carried some feelings into that relationship in 2014 that he already had, that his parents and his brothers were revolving too much around his fame and fortune and success. Right. And he was very generous with them. He didn't feel that was fully appreciated. She agreed with that. But he hasn't dated her in 7 years, so how could you blame her?
Yeah, right.
There are petty issues with the brothers. He was really mad when Jordan went on The Bachelorette and used the estrangement to his advantage to further his TV career. He was really pissed off about that. And they were upset when he didn't go to a wedding and a funeral. And there are so many.
Yeah, he didn't go to a funeral of his grandfather, who he was close with.
He called his grandmother. It's the first time she had spoken to him in a while. He was very close to them. He used to call them before every game, from high school, college, and the pros. And he did send her an email. I emailed back and forth with his grandmother, and she was very appreciative of that anyway. But yeah, he really couldn't fully answer that question. His parents can't. So there were 14 or 15 different reasons, and a lot of them are minor. And so it adds up to an estrangement that should have been killed off 5-6 years ago.
You said he could just tell you it's this. Did he just not want to tell you? Because he did speak to you at the end.
He did, and he said there are a couple things I just don't want to talk about that are involved here for public consumption. And but I've talked to a lot of his friends who are close and have a handle on the situation. They agree with me. Jordan Russell, his best friend, told me the punishment, does it fit the crime? Basically, it doesn't. And
does Jordan know what it is? Because Jordan came back from Elba.
Yeah, no, he's Jordan Russell, right? He was on the island, right? And Aaron, when he's excommunicating you, he puts you on this island, and it's a cold and lonely place. There's no FaceTime connection even. And if you're a person who's not on the island, but you communicate with somebody on the island,
then you're
the next person there. And so Jordan made it back, but he said, does the punishment really fit the crime? And his role, he said, as Aaron's best friend, is to try to make this reconciliation happen.
It's just amazing, even when you put it in the words you did, where they were at an Airbnb in Montclair hoping to run into their son. Like that's sad, especially from somebody I lost my dad when I was young. My mom's still with me, but it has to be something catastrophic that would make me not want to see my parents. Brothers, sisters, I get it. They squabble, they get into fights, but these are your parents. It's got to be something big, and I'm sorry, if it's not something big, then it's hard not to be judgmental kind of against him if it's something petty that you don't even want to see your parents.
Well, there's one hopeful scene in the book of Aaron hugging his dad last year at Lake Tahoe at the celebrity golf tournament. He plays in every summer. And actually, I'll be honest here, I've never really said this before, but I was talking with Ed Rogers, his dad, in Chico, California, where Aaron grew up. And he was talking about how Aaron doesn't know how to end this. He just can't figure it out, which is true. It's a living organism, the estrangement, and he can't kill it off. So he's allowing it, instead of confronting it, he's just allowing it to live on because he can't figure out how to end it. So he said Ed Rogers told me, Aaron doesn't know how to make the first move. So I said, well, why don't you make the first move? And he said, I think I will. So he goes to the golf tournament. He puts himself in the crowd in his line of vision.
So your conversation with him was before that?
That's correct.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and I haven't said that before.
Wow.
I don't even remember if I put that in the book.
You didn't.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just said that's really all my contribution was, because I didn't want to get involved. I just said, why don't you make the first move? So he said, okay, I will. And he goes to the golf tournament. Aaron, on the 9th hole on Saturday, sees him in the crowd, and he's thinking to himself, do I ignore him? Do I act like I'm on the phone? Or do I go give him a hug? He's my dad. So something compelled him to go over and give him a hug. Ed was looking at the 9th tee box. He turns around, and Aaron's standing 15 feet away looking at him. And Ed froze because he said, I just forgot what it felt like to have my son in my presence looking at me. So Aaron walks up to him, hugs him, says, I love you. Ed says, I love you, son. He cries. Aaron gathers himself. It was a 30-second thing, and then he had to go finish his golf round. But there was no follow-up. I did get both of them to say, particularly Aaron, and he has not said this about any family member since the estrangement started in 2014, I want a relationship with my father. So I do think it will happen. They're both on the record saying that. So I think it'll happen, and then I think the rest of the family will sort of fall into place.
Yeah, but what I don't understand, your parents get older. You just can't wait. I mean, milk spoils. I mean, they might not be here, and then you're going to really be sorry. What is he waiting for?
Well, I mean, at the risk of doing what people already think we do anyway, which is beating up Aaron Rodgers on this show, it kind of goes to show you that as intelligent as he is, and he is intelligent, I sort of feel like a really fundamental tenet of emotional intelligence is the ability to forgive and the ability to apologize and the ability to confront other adults about things that are important to you. And that just seems to be a thing that he struggles with, which kind of does add to the complexity and fascination with the guy.
Now, talking about being smart, right? He was just on with Bart and Hahn, and I was listening driving in. And in the book, you say he's really smart about things. He reads everything. And they're talking about the Olympics. And Alan Hahn said, we got our butts kicked in 3-on-3 basketball. And like this, he goes, well, Jimmer Fredette got hurt. Who would know that Jimmer Fredette got hurt?
I did. It's a trick. It's a trick. That was around. There was a big social media clip moving around because Jimmer Fredette got hurt.
I saw that.
And there was a woman who was doing the physical therapy on him on the bench and was rubbing his thigh.
But this guy knows everything about everything.
Yeah, no. I mean,
for him to throw Jimmer Fredette
instantaneously.
I think before his interview with you last year after the press conference, Gelfand or somebody said, "Hey, Aaron, this is a big show, okay?" And I think he knew that, and he went in and gave you the best interview of the day. I heard all of them by far. So he's smart that way. He knows what matters and what doesn't. As far as the family goes, there are family members who told me they think if he had his own family, if he had kids.
I thought the exact same thing. Will he figure it out when he has kids?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like J.D. Vance here. We're talking about kids and not having kids, but he wants to have kids, and I do think he'll be like Jeter, where he marries late and has kids late. But he really wants to have kids. He said, that's the next stage for me. And I actually think I saw him, and I've talked to his friends. He's great with kids. He is really good with kids. So I think he'll be a really good father.
And then maybe you'd have to think that once he feels that love for a child, he'll go, oh, my God, what I would do if this child stopped talking to me.
Exactly.
And that will then affect the way he sees his parents.
You think he's going to have a good year this year?
I do. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he'll make 14 starts. I think Tyrod Taylor will go 2-1 in the other 3. Just have the injury in the middle of the year so he's healthy for the playoffs. Yeah, I think they're an 11-6 team. They should win the division, and I think they can make a run.
Oh, that would be so cool, man.
It is a shame for Aaron that it's all about the Super Bowl, because even if everything clicks, it's such a difficult conference. It's just so hard to win.
There's no reason the Chiefs can't repeat this year.
There's got to be some happy medium. Or Michael doesn't think so, but is there something that they could do where you still will feel it was worth it, even if they don't have a ring?
Yes. Yeah, if they go 11-6, if they make the playoffs and they win a playoff game, I have them. Somebody asked me the other day. I have them 11-6 and losing the AFC Championship game at Kansas City. To me, that's a win.
That can't be a shame, right? Unless he throws 4 picks and gives them no chance.
Even if he does, he gets them to the Final Four, and
you lose to one of the greatest teams we've ever seen.
That's right.
Is he jealous of Mahomes?
That's a good question. I don't know, because Mahomes replaced him as a spokesperson with State Farm, too. They decided, let's go with the controversy-free, Jeter-like guy in Mahomes, and Aaron's getting older, and we have all these controversies, so that was a nice little transition as far as spokespeople are concerned. But Mahomes, I don't know. I did not ask him that question.
All right, can you stay with us?
Absolutely.
All right, so Ian O'Connor, who has a great book coming out tomorrow. We're going for 3.
You want to go 3?
Yeah.
That's how we feel about this?
I thought it was 4.
Wow.
He's almost like a family member.
I love the man.
Out of the Darkness, the book about Aaron Rodgers. It's great. It's tremendous. It's interesting read. And it brings you into the soul, I think, and the mind of a very complicated individual. So we'll talk to Ian a little bit more when we come back. But first, Peter's going to tell us about FanDuel.
Oh, you're right.
GM, nice enough to join us now, in which I'm sure that the last couple of days have been brutally busy. Brian, it's Michael and Peter. Thanks for coming on.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We're doing okay. How are you doing? Did you accomplish what you wanted at the trade deadline?
We certainly tried. We checked some boxes. Certainly tried to accomplish and check a lot of boxes, but going into the deadline, too, we liked our team, and, the ultimate goal was to improve upon it. We've done that. Certainly always wish you could do more, but happy with who we have and who we brought in.
Were you looking to get a starter, Brian, because, everybody looks at the offense struggling, and it looks like they struggle, but they were scoring the same amount of runs that they did before before this slump. It's been the starting pitching that has really gone down. Were you looking to pick up a starting pitcher?
We were looking at all aspects. We're trying to, add to our rotation, add to our bullpen, be open-minded on position player fits, and so we really went to market, with a lot of different thoughts and reacting to, what we were also hearing from like 29 other counterparts and not kind of square peg, square hole, approach, more of be nimble and flexible and really try to tackle a lot of different things and see if we can just somehow come out of it with an improved roster, whether it was significantly improved, radically changed, or just moderately. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is, recognizing you've got a good, strong unit and just trying to give our manager, Aaron Boone, more ammunition. And like anything else, you deal with, fits. Some places we didn't have matches with. Other places, we didn't like their asks. And the ones we pulled down are the ones we found common ground on.
Jack Flaherty, we know, was one you've said already, Brian, that you weren't able to find a match for. How close were you? At any point did you think it was going to get done?
You just stay engaged all the way to the very end. He was obviously one of the better starting pitchers on the market, and everybody's looking for starting pitching. So I think ultimately the Tigers made a decision towards the end, but we were obviously discussing a lot of different things, and the value was the value, and others matched up better than we could.
Did you have some heat taken off of you, Brian, when the team won the games Saturday, Sunday, Monday, leading into the trade deadline yesterday, where they had been playing so poorly for a month and a half, and all of a sudden they reel off 3 wins in a row against pretty good teams? Did that take some of the pressure off of you?
Absolutely not. Those are just small sample sizes, and it's just you got this one last chance to, within outside the organization, improve yourself with an exchange rate that was obviously different for everybody, and there was the pressure's there for us to win and find a way to win and find a way to deliver. So no, I mean it's nice that we obviously went into this very difficult scheduled road trip to Boston and Philly and did as well as we did. But no, one has nothing to do with the other.
Were you looking for a closer? Yesterday, Holmes blew his 5th save in 7 opportunities. Today, he did get the save in the 6-5 win. And in the clubhouse afterward, Aaron Judge said, that's our closer. We all believe in him. But he's not a swing and miss guy, Brian. Were you looking for that sort of guy to bring in to either have Holmes go to the 8th inning or have him back up Holmes?
No, we were just looking for more swing and miss out of our entire pen, and trying to get more of that, and not, hey, we need a closer. I think Clay Holmes is an excellent closer. I think he's one of the best relievers in the game. I think, when he hits free agency, whether it's us retaining him or somebody else pulling him down, I think the market will reflect how good Clay Holmes really is and what the industry really thinks of him. But that's all for another day. But our approach was, we embrace who Clay Holmes is and what he provides, and we feel like we're lucky to have him. And we were just trying to add to what Clay Holmes brings to the table and make sure that Aaron Boone has as many choices as he can, as he has to do the most difficult job on the planet, which is manage, a major league team in New York and obviously against really tough competition. So I was just trying to arm him with more choices. And yes, acknowledge that this particular pen group is less swing and miss than what we're used to, so trying to add to that. So we brought in Leiter and De Los Santos. That was at least the result of those efforts.
I look at this season, I've said this on the air, Brian, that there's a lot of pressure to do it this year because this is the one year, Brian, that you have Soto. I'm sure that you guys want to retain him, but, you're going to have to bid against 29 other teams. Do you feel that pressure as well? Because, hey, this is the one year we have Soto and Judge together, for sure.
No, I mean, so as good as Soto is, turn the clock back. We had LeMahieu when he was a top 5 MVP candidate for a couple straight years with Judge on the roster and everything else we've had. And so you can play that game with our roster every year. And every year the pressure is the same with whatever group you happen to have. If it plays to the highest level of its ability, it's usually rosters that can compete for a championship. And so, no, I don't think, to your question, that there's any more pressure this year than last. I think we're, just fortunate to deploy Soto for ourselves rather than it adding more pressure to win. The pressure's there year in and year out regardless.
Some people are questioning how deep the Yankee farm system is. That maybe there aren't that many people that are close to Major League ready, but were you asked a lot about specific guys, and were you reluctant to trade a Jason Dominguez and a Spencer Jones and a George Lombard Jr.? Were those guys that were asked for, and you just didn't want to mess with that?
I think we were open-minded to certain things, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, some guys are more, untouchable than others, but again, we kept an open mind on things. But there's no doubt that the names you just brought on, they were asked about a lot. The guy who just pitched yesterday that kept us in the game for his major league debut in a hostile environment against a great offense in Warren, he was asked about a ton. I acknowledge our system might not be as deep as some other organizations, that have been in a rebuilding mode, that put an arsenal together is much deeper, right now than we happen to be. And we've had some injuries and stuff too in the minors, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, we certainly had a number of players that were coveted. But shooting those bullets for 2 months rental, that wasn't necessarily going to move a needle big enough. In some cases we matched up on things that we just said, that's not good. That's a bad deal. And we weren't trying to make good deals. We were trying to make deals that were going to improve us, but not deals that were stupid either at the same time. So, hey, it's the dance you got to do with everybody, your 29 counterparts. There's certainly, we're in competition while we're doing those dance with other organizations that might be in this real time more suited or deeper or more diversified choices than we might be. And some of the guys people wanted to pull, we were unwilling to pull for those particular asks. But hey, that's how it goes every year, every winter, every summer. But as I said, I think we were flexible depending on who it was, and that what we came back with was what we came back with, and we're happy to add those to a team I think is really good as is, and I think it's gotten better, and I think obviously once some of the other guys come back from the IL too, it has a chance to get even better and deeper. So we are pleased with who we are. We are pleased with where we are, and we're looking forward to playing this thing.
All right, so in the years that you've been the GM, the long time that you've been the GM, I can't recall, maybe you can, a guy that you traded away that has come back to haunt you as a superstar. There have been some guys that have become good players, but nobody has come back to haunt you like, Jeff Bagwell or John Smoltz back in the day. Those are famous trades. But then the flip side is that you get called a prospect hugger, that you fall in love with your prospects and you don't want to trade them. What do you say to that criticism?
I don't know. I mean, I think we have to make very difficult decisions in real time, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't consider myself a prospect hugger. I think I'm willing to make deals, but then obviously in real time you got to make very difficult decisions on what you think or what you project something is or is something going to be, and then you live with it. And so I think certainly there's going to be individuals you can point to that if you could turn back the clock, you would have deployed and given up on early. And and then for those that that throw those comments, I guess I'm sure they're thankful Aaron Judge is still here, right? So because we could have shot that bullet in the minor leagues when he was coming through if we wanted. And so these are difficult moves. That's what you get paid to do with the people that you surround yourself with. And, at the end of the day, it's all relevant. It all goes into the bin of who you are and what you are and how good you are. And so I guess you just have to take it on an individual case-by-case basis, I guess.
All right, so yesterday, trade deadline, 6 o'clock. Brian, can you tell us whether you were really close to something that would have been on the front page of the tabloids today? I mean, were you close to that sort of deal?
For the front page for today?
Yeah, after the trade deadline.
The reason I asked is because obviously, Chisholm obviously was that guy a few days earlier, but so like another one.
That would have knocked everybody's socks off.
I mean, we're trying. I don't know about that. I mean, there were a lot of different puzzle pieces that were, or that were moving around that, we were just trying to find ways to continue to improve the roster, even if it meant changing the roster to some degree. But at the end of the day, those didn't fall in play. But the conversations were always being had as you'd want. But no, as we were getting closer and closer to 6 o'clock, unless we were going to get a call back or when we were making those final calls again, just to check to see if somebody was going to blink and change their mind or they overplayed their hand and they didn't want to get stuck or what have you. We were working those phones all the way up to the end, but clearly it didn't change.
I've been saying this a lot. I wonder what your take is on it. I think it's ridiculous the trade deadline is at the end of July. The teams have not declared themselves. That extra wild card changes the whole paradigm. Shouldn't they push it back a couple of weeks so people can separate themselves where there aren't only 4 teams that are willing to sell because everybody thinks they have a chance? Do you think that the trade deadline's too early?
I'll tell you what, if you were in the general manager's meetings on behalf of Major League Baseball and the commissioner's office, we have those type of meetings every year, and I've been a GM now for a long time, and that type of discussion seems to play out every year constantly. Somebody puts it on the agenda, and the room voting comes back, 50-50. Like some people would move it back, some people wouldn't change it. Some people think it's fine, exactly where it's at. So I think there's never been a consensus on that topic. Your points are well taken. And then some people, want it earlier in the year. So even earlier than it is, to be honest, I've heard the arguments that so people just have to run on fumes, use their system. If you have injuries or underperformance or no way to improve your club, I've heard that argument too in those type sessions. So, man, it runs all over the map, and usually every time we're done voting, it comes away with no consensus, no direction because of it, because everybody's got different views on it.
What do you say, Brian? We get, obviously, we get some pretty hostile calls on this show. The Yankee fan base is a passionate one, to say the least. What do you say to the fan base who is upset and frustrated that they sort of feel like they're in it's sort of Groundhog's Day? Every year, team has potential, season starts, injuries happen, and by the time we get later in the year, they don't feel like they have a representative lineup and a chance to really threaten in the playoffs. What do you say to the fans who feel like it's been like that year after year?
Well, obviously, I think everything is relative to their most recent emotional experience. So, clearly those who are making those phone calls or feel that way, which could be, a large portion of our fan base. It's just how we ended things, right, in the more recent times. So, and then certainly we've just come off of a horrific, feels like 6 weeks or so of terrible baseball. We went and played, baseball where we were rocking and rolling and from, no one could beat us per se to if we were playing in the College World Series, University of Kentucky would have knocked us out in the semifinals, right? In the college playoffs, World Series. So it's just the ebbs and flows of this. In some cases, when you get sent home, it's because something fell apart and looked worse enough that it wasn't good enough, and hopefully this year's version is going to leave them with a different taste in their mouth. That's yet to be determined. But until we can erase that fully, that feeling, those beliefs, then there's nothing I can say about it other than to fight through it the best we can and try to flip that script and make them feel better longer. And that's only with an exclamation point of a much more consistent offense. That Exhibit A was we imported Soto this winter. Not that we didn't try to get him in the past. We tried to get him from Washington. We tried to get him from San Diego earlier the trade deadline last year, not this year, and ultimately got him this winter. So while we have the ability to have that type of decision making, why I'm certainly in the chair, we keep trying, we keep working at it with new people and adjustments and changes and see if it's going to be good enough. So time will tell.
Brian Cashman is our guest. Nice enough to join us after the trade deadline last night. Brian, I'm curious. I'm going to take that 35-game stretch out where you guys were 11-24, and only the White Sox were worse, and the White Sox were just dreadful. Did you doubt at any point this is not going to turn around? I mean, was there ever a moment where you go, "Wow, what's happening here"?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of it. You fall back on those. You tell yourself you're never as good as you are when you're going good. You're never as bad as you are when you're going bad. That doesn't help comfort you, right? When you're going through you don't even bother to use that when you're flying high. But you certainly hear that from people trying to help you through it mentally. But at the end of the day, we look pretty horrible, and it went longer than expected, and it is baseball. So I never take things for granted. And we've also had some experiences with it in the most recent 2 seasons. And so it's all on the front of your mind. And that's why, obviously, for instance, at this deadline, we acquired the player we did from Florida, from Miami, and to try to deepen our lineup, improve, our athleticism in the offensive side, get a left-handed bat that puts the ball in the air rather than on the ground. And, because we've hit so many double plays this year, and get somebody who can go first to third or first to home on a ball in the gap, or steal some more bases, all the above, and try to continue to improve upon things. So, yeah, I mean, bottom line, those were, and, that period was rather difficult. And without a doubt, I don't care if you're a fan, I don't care if you're a player that's playing through it, or a manager, or a coaching staff, or for front office, or me, myself, and I. That was not representative of what our capabilities of, but it's also representative of how difficult this game is.
Brian, sometimes I feel like it's almost underrated among the fan base how much they should hate the Astros. I mean, like, the hatred of the Red Sox is obviously well documented for a million reasons. But over the last near decade now, it really has become the Astros are the rival to this team. Inside the Yankees, do you guys have the sort of requisite distaste for this team, the amount of tough losses and sort of dominance that the Astros have had over you guys over the last several years?
I think you're leaving out important pieces I don't need to talk about, too, that would go into what your comments are.
That as well. That as well, Brian. That as well.
Yeah. Listen, bottom line is rivalries are good for our sport. Without a doubt, there's a rivalry there, and that will drive a lot of emotions, attentions, and heightened interest. So that's great. They have found ways to beat us in the times we've matched up here, and ultimately, the path has got to go through Houston many a times in the last, I don't know how many. It's been a long time now. Clearly, they've had a hell of a run, but they're not the only ones that are going to be playing for the big prize this year. They're certainly competing for it with a lot of others, including ourselves. So, we'll see. Whoever we match up with, whenever we match up with, as long as we can get there, we look forward to competing.
Final thing, Brian, I'm wondering, was this the ultimate seller's market where, I mean, there aren't that many teams that are giving up and everybody's asking for Neiman Marcus prices, maybe even if it's just, I don't know, Target, product? I mean, was it really difficult to find reasonable matches?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly thankful that we were buyers, because ultimately, you don't want to be, especially with the Yankees, you don't want to be a seller. So thankfully our team is strong and we're in a position to add to it. But to answer your question, if you were ever going to be a seller, this particular trade deadline was the best time probably ever in the history of our game to be a seller. The prices were through the roof. The demands were high. What the reasonings behind all that were, more wild card teams, whatever it was, limited huge inventory, in terms of superstars being moved. You didn't see that, but a lot of really good players got moved. That will impact these pennant race. But in terms of the price tags and that people were paying at a level was probably at a historic rate. And so I never want to be in a buying mode, but if you were selling this time around, you
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
And this man was on the last Yankee championship team in 2009. He's back at Old Timers Day on Saturday. His first appearance as an old timer. And he joins us now on the show, and that is CC Sabathia. C, thank you for joining us.
No problem. What's going on?
Not too much. You pitched against a lot of great hitters in your career. Have you ever seen anybody doing, for an extended period of time, what Judge is doing right now?
No, I mean, I guess the only other person would be Barry, right? But, I mean, no, I mean, not on a scale where the baseball team that I'm watching, my favorite team every day, feels like it's a guy going deep or impactful, double or something, where he's impacting the game every single day. So, no, I mean, for a team that I've watched, and been a fan of, no, I don't think there's ever been a player that, I can say that I've watched daily that like Aaron Judge right now.
CC, how would you pitch to him?
Right now, you can't. I mean, to be honest, I don't understand why teams are pitching to him. I mean, last night the Nationals had to pitch to him with the bases loaded, but outside of that, there's really nowhere you can throw the ball right now where he can't hit it out of the ballpark. And he's controlling the strike zone and controlling the plate so much that he's only swinging at pitches that he can actually barrel and slug. So there's really nothing you can do right now but hope that he hits the ball like he did last night, really hard at the shortstop, and, it's at somebody.
All right, so on the flip side of that, the guy batting in front of him, CC, how would you pitch to Juan Soto? Because, he's having an unbelievable year that's kind of dwarfed because Judge is having an historic year. What would you do with Soto?
I mean, kind of in the same boat, right? He controls the strike zone so well, too, that, he makes you if I was facing Juan Soto, I wouldn't make him hit his way on base. Like, I definitely wouldn't want to walk him. I definitely wouldn't want to get him to any counts where he can control the strike zone or anything like that. I'm trying to throw something in the zone or right off of his barrel where I'm getting weak or soft contact, but early in the count, and, definitely not trying to, put him on base or let him walk where, I have Judge and now I'm in trouble.
Does he seem, CC, does Judge seem any different from the kid that you met when he first got to this team?
No, and that's what's cool about him. He's always been the same. And I think if you even, talk to myself or Gardy or any of those older players on that team when he was younger, you can see the captain quality, right? Like he was, destined to be the captain and the leader of the team. I don't think anybody could predict that he was going to turn into Barry Bonds, but I think we all knew that he had the quality to lead and to be able to go out and be the captain of the team.
What I find amazing, CC, is that any other ball player on any other team, we're appreciating the moment, but only in New York, only with the Yankees do we have to have the caveat of, but he hasn't won yet, or does he have to win a ring to be considered an all-time Yankee? You played for the Bombers and other organizations. Do you look at that as a curse or something really cool that there is a certain standard with the Yankees that doesn't seem to exist with other teams?
I think it's something that's really cool, outside looking in. And I think, guys like Derek or guys like Brett Gardner or guys like, Aaron Judge that grow up in this culture, they don't know any different, right? Like they know that they need to win the World Series to be great because that's what every great Yankee has done. I think it's, when you outside looking in, you're like, it's hard on these guys because the only thing that matters is October. But when you grow up in this culture, that's the only thing that matters. Every year, beginning of the season in February, the only thing that matters is us playing through October. And these guys live with that. They come up Yankees, Volpe's the same way. So when you're in this organization, you come up in this organization, that's the way you think.
There's two things that happen in your career that that it blew me away and gained such an incredible amount of respect around the game. Number one was when you got traded to Milwaukee and you're going to be a free agent, and you took the ball, I think, 3 times on 3 days rest, despite the fact that you could get hurt. And the other one was in the game in Tampa Bay when you were, I think, an inning away from getting a $500,000 bonus, and you drilled somebody because they drilled one of your players. That just, you don't make that stuff up. And I just wondered your thoughts. Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, you know, he's coming back from an arm injury. He's having a great year, and people were going to trade for him. And he said, if I go anywhere, I'm not pitching in the postseason unless you give me a contract extension. So for a guy who actually went through that, what was your thought on that?
For me, I mean, you know, getting traded was the most devastating thing that could have happened to me, you know, at the time. You know, I had been in Cleveland, you know, for 11 years, 8 years in the big leagues. I was 17 when I got drafted, and, you know, I thought I was going to be in the organization forever. But, you know, when I got to Milwaukee and I walk in the clubhouse and there's Prince Fielder and Mike Cameron and my best friend Dave Risky at the time, all these different guys, you know, I realized that it's just baseball. And, you know, I felt good. I wanted to win. You know, the team wanted me there, and they were on the verge of making the playoffs. So it was a no-brainer for me to pitch, you know, on 3 days rest down the stretch because, you know, the ultimate goal was to try to win.
And you never thought about the money that you could lose if you got hurt? You never thought about that, CeCe?
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about more money I could make if I pitched well.
Oh, okay.
You know, I wasn't thinking about the money that I could lose if I get hurt. I was thinking about if I pitch well in these games, you know, I can make myself more money because I didn't pitch well in pressure situations 2007. I won the Cy Young. You know, I didn't pitch well in the DS against the Yankees. I didn't pitch well in the ALCS. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity to show everybody, like, I can be a big game pitcher. So I want the ball as many times as possible because I feel like it was going to make me more money.
I never thought of it like that because I had heard rumors that your agent said maybe you shouldn't do this because you could get hurt, but you were trying to prove a point as well.
Oh, my agent wasn't talking to me at the time. He wouldn't even come to the game. He wasn't taking my calls. He wasn't coming to the starts or nothing. So he was pretty upset with me.
How crazy was it going back to Old Timers Day? Did it hit you 15 years since 2009? How weird was that for you?
Yeah, it was weird. It was pretty cool though to be able to go back and kind of be celebrated. It was fun to be able to see all the guys, you know, AJ and Phil, and you know, I spent a lot of time with Derek. I see A-Rod, I see Posada, but to see all of these guys together in the same room again, it was a lot of fun, and it's cool to see how close we all still are, you know, and to tell the stories and to kind of reminisce, you know. But yeah, I mean, it felt like 15 years, you know. I feel like an old man. I could barely get up the stairs to get out the dugout, you know. But it was a lot of fun to be back together and you know, be back with that crew.
You know, you were there for everything that happened with Alex at the end of his Yankee career and the, you know, suing the team and all that. Did you ever think, when he was going through that there would be a time where he would be welcomed back by the Yankees, be a part of it all, to be received the way that he was received, and kind of like a phoenix get out of the ashes from all the controversy he was under at the end of his Yankee career?
Yeah, to be honest, like when he and we were all going through that, I mean, it was just, you were just in the moment. You know, it was hard to think about, you know, 10 years later, 15 years later, or even down the line. But I think, you know, once you get removed from all of that stuff and you realize just how great of a player he was, just how much he meant to us in 2009, some of the big, you know, I mean, big hit after big hit, big home run against Joe Nathan, you know, big double against Brad Lidge. I mean, just the countless conversations that me and him had out on the field, you know, from third base to the pitcher's mound. Like, you know, he would be like, hey, this guy's swinging first pitch right here. You know, just a baseball savant. So I think it's awesome to see him, you know, come back, get his recognition, and you know, he's one of the best players to ever play baseball. So he deserves to be celebrated.
We're talking with CeCe Sabathia here on the Michael Kay Show. You told a great story on Yes when you were with us on Saturday that you didn't want anything to do with signing with the Yankees. That was the last place you wanted to be, and Brian Cashman kind of convinced you of the things that you'd end up loving it. And here you are, you're raising your family in this area. What would you tell Juan Soto right now? I mean, what should the Yankees be selling him on, CeCe?
You know what? I don't think they need to sell him on anything because he's here. Like, he can see it. He can feel it. Like, it's different when you put on the pinstripes and you win and you're playing well in the Bronx. I mean, this summer's been on fire. I mean, just looking at, the celebrations and the amount of fun that they've had, I think for me it was different because I hadn't had that. I was coming from smaller market teams, and all I heard about was, the rift that they had in the clubhouse, all the different things that you could have with the fans. I had just seen so many free agents coming in and not being able to, live up to whatever expectations they had or the fans had for them. And, I just didn't want to be a part of that. But, sitting down and talking to Cash that offseason and really sitting down and talking to Amber, it was the best decision that we could have made, and if I could, want to consider myself a winner and want to take on the challenge of trying to win every single time out, how could you not come to the Yankees? How could you not want to play in the Bronx? This is the only place that's proven that they want to win every single year. We may fall short, but it's not because of lack of effort. And, I think that, when you're in that clubhouse and you put on those pinstripes and you start doing some cool stuff and you see your name next to Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth and all these different guys, it's not hard to tell.
Now, I don't know, Don and Peter, I don't think they listened to the inning that you did with me and Paul on Saturday. And I've had so many people tell me, CeCe, wow, he's just so great on the air. Now, I know you do the alternate cast on the MLB Network, and that's something, obviously, the broadcasting business, but you seem like you're such a natural in the booth doing a game. Have you ever given any thought to that at all?
I think I would love. I think I would have fun in the booth. I can't wear a suit. There's no way I'm wearing a suit to a baseball game. So if I could wear those shorts and that New York or nowhere shirt or some J's, I would definitely get in the booth. But it has to be. And I think that's why I created those clubhouse games and did those alternate casts on MLB. Just to do it in a way that, I'm comfortable. And, but I love baseball. I love, watching baseball. I watch a lot of games. I love the Yankees. I watch every single Yankee game. I think I could be good at it, but I don't think it's something that's with me right now.
All right, well, I have a little bit of a solution. See if it works for you. Ready? So, Girardi hates wearing a jacket and tie. Hates it. But he wears a jacket and tie for the Open, which is 30 seconds, and then he puts a polo shirt on after that. You can sit there in shorts during the game just for the Open with a jacket and tie and take it off. Does that work?
That might work because I did have on slacks for the ceremony, then I changed into shorts and T-shirt after. So
no, and the cheat code could be, CeCe, you just leave a couple of shirts and ties at the booth. And then you don't even have to wear it to the building. That's the cheat code. By the way, CeCe, of course, does incredible work, and I'm always happy to get to work with him with the Pitch In Foundation. And the golf tournament is coming up in a couple of weeks, September 23rd from 10 to 6. If you're looking to maybe buy a team and get in there and support the great work of the Pitch In Foundation, you can go to Pitch In, that's PITCCHIN.org.
Cool. Now, CeCe, I want to get back to A-Rod for just a second. Would you like to see it all come full circle and maybe him end up in Monument Park?
Oh, yeah. Of course. But that's not up to me.
If it were up to you,
as a teammate, yes. Obviously, he's, like I said, somebody asked me the other day who's the best player that you ever played with, and it's hands down A-Rod. It's not even a question. If, you leave it up to me, I think he deserves to be in every Monument Park and everywhere.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it was great being in the booth with you and Paul. It was great to see the reaction that the fans gave you on Saturday. I hope you had a good time at Old Timers Day. And thank you for coming on with us, and thank you at the tournament. Good luck with the tournament coming up as well.
No problem. I'm trying to get my swing together, Peter. So I'm trying to shoot even on the tournament day. So I appreciate you plugging it.
Listen, relative to me, you're fine. Wait, and by the way, CeCe, one more random question. When I saw you in Cleveland and we ran into each other, was Kenny Lofton at dinner?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. That was Kenny Lofton.
So I run into CeCe. It turns out CeCe and Amber, he was doing an event in Cleveland, as he's wont to do, right? And I happen to be there, and I hear that they're having dinner down the street. And I stop by, and a bunch of people are there that I know. And then CeCe's like introducing me. Oh, this is Kenny. And I'm looking at him, and we're having a conversation. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is the icon Kenny Lofton. That was dope. Great seeing you, man. Thanks for jumping on.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You got it. I think we made some progress there.
Oh, no, we've done it.
Because all you have to do is wear the jacket and tie on the Open. That's it. We're not on camera after that.
I remember, because that trick of dress shirt was how, when I was trying to force myself out of being a sloppy pig like Ray from South Carolina.
North Carolina.
Whatever. When Ray from North Carolina said that, the original trick that I had was I just started leaving, collar shirts in my locker here. And that was the beginning.
Because O'Neal doesn't put the tie on until we're about to tape the Open. So he's walking around with an open collar shirt, and then he puts the tie on, and then he takes it off. I keep it on all the time because I feel that a tie covers your gut a little bit. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I know those tricks. Yeah. By the way, guys, I got to tell you something.
What?
Kenny Lofton, great guy.
You liked him?
A big fan. Lovely, regular guy. We spent a lot of time talking about basketball, actually. Very knowledgeable about basketball.
Very good player.
Very good player from my childhood. Kenny Lofton was the man.
Anyway, that was the Pinstripe Report brought to you by Samwell Institute for Pain Management. For pain-free life, visit SamwellPain.com today. The world's in a good place, Peter. You asked CeCe to come on, and he came on. He was on with us during the game. It's all, and I'm not just blowing smoke, and I know you guys didn't watch it, but he was so good on the air.
Well, you can hear it even right there. He does what the best players turned analysts do, which is speak honestly without any airs, pay attention and know the game, and and just be good at communicating. Like, he has all of the basic skills down. Like, he's not trying to be fancy. He's not pretending to be someone else. He's a really knowledgeable guy and has the perspective of a player, and he knows how to communicate it without trying to fluff it up too much.
And I think that today's players look up to him, so he's going to have a portal into talking to them and telling stories. It's going to be great. Can't let a tie stand in the way.
That could happen. If I was a betting man, I'd say this could happen at some point soon.
But you're not a betting man.
No. Well, if I was, though.
But you're not.
Well, sometimes I am.
Okay.
Sundays, FanDuel, you know what I'm talking about.
Of course,
promo code Peter.
Let's go to Bill in Red Hook. Bill.
Hey, how are you guys? Love the show.
Thanks, man.
The thing that I want to talk about or ask you guys about, I want to ask you, is what do you think the ramifications are going to be about this playoffs with Aaron Judge being walked all the time? Because it's not going to end there. It's going to go to Bobby Witt. It's going to go to Shohei Ohtani. The game is going to change. Like Wilt Chamberlain, they're going to have to change the rules, or at least in my opinion. And one last thing I want to say is, Don, I got to call my lawyer. You're going to give me a heart attack. I'm the guy who argued with you 6 years ago about Namath. All I got to say is September 24th, 1972. And guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because I really think it's going to be I think they're going to change not only intentional walks, but walks in the next couple of years. Because like you said, the hedge funds, does baseball want to see their best players not play in the playoffs?
Yeah, but I hear, we talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks, Bill, and I understand your concern, but there have been a lot of great players in baseball, and only one of them got intentionally walked a lot, and that's Barry Bonds. I mean, they weren't intentionally walking Don Mattingly. They weren't intentionally walking Ohtani. The key is when you've got a great player like that, you have people behind them that make you pay when you walk them. You look at the Royals. The Royals have a pretty good lineup. They've got people behind Bobby Witt that forces you to at least try to pitch to Bobby Witt. Now, I agree with CeCe. I don't know why anybody pitches the Judge. But of late, Stanton's made them pay. Wells has made them pay over the last 30 games. So I think one of the biggest keys to not having Judge pitched around is Soto on deck. Or Soto being on first. Because Soto works so many walks, has an on-base percentage of close to 500. Don, Peter, he's on first base. That kind of ties your hands of walking Judge. That's as much of a deterrent as having somebody great hitting behind him.
See, that was the thing, is that it's not as much a baseball problem as it is a Yankee problem. You know, you've got to have protection in that lineup. You've got to have other guys to be able to hit. And if Stanton is going to hit, and if Soto's going to get on, then you're not going to have the luxury of pitching around Aaron Judge. Last night they had the bases loaded. What are they going to do, Michael? Bases loaded.
You got to pitch to him.
1 out. You got to pitch to him. There's no other way around it. So how the Yankees perform ultimately is going to decide whether they pitch to him or not, and it becomes more of a Yankee problem than it is a baseball problem. And the caller is also, I looked it up just to confirm, but I knew what he was talking about. That was that shootout that the Jets had with the Colts and Johnny Unitas, that Namath went off, and I'm trying to get his stats, that Joe Namath threw for 496 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an interception. Okay, that's a game. Nobody's saying that Joe Namath wasn't a good player, Michael. He was a fabulous player. But if they lose to the Colts and he doesn't make his guarantee, he's not going to the Hall of Fame.
I think you might be right. I really think you might be right. Jack in Connecticut. Jack.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks for making it.
The thing that I wanted to talk about is that the importance of a ring versus the greatness of the player. And I throw a name out to you guys, Jim Luskatoff. I don't know if any of the three of you know who that was.
Basketball, right?
Basketball. He got 7 rings, and he got it because he was the backup to Bill Russell. So, I mean, does he take precedence over a guy who never won a ring?
Well, Robert Ory, too. Robert Ory's like the modern-day guy. Bounced around, always seemed to be at the right place at the right time to win a ring.
Hit some big shots, though. Robert Ory did hit some big shots.
Yeah, no,
Ory wasn't a backup.
But he's not. But nobody's going to make him one of the great players of all time.
Exactly. So why are people judged by the number of rings that they have then? You know, Frank Crissetti had 8 rings and Yogi Berra had 10. I mean, does that make Crissetti a top Yankee? I don't think so. He was a great coach and things like that.
You are starting to, in defense of the people that weight the rings, I mean, you are picking guys that were backups that happen to be at the right place at the right time. It is, I think, a great tiebreaker when you have 2 very equal players and one's got 5 rings and one has none. I can understand maybe siding with the guy that's got the 5 rings, but I need to see what all that looks like. How much did they contribute? Or did they hit a big shot? Would they have won the championship without him? You know, so I think we get lazy sometimes with the rings. Sometimes you got to look at the numbers.
See, I think that you're so right, though, Don. I mean, we have eyeballs, so we can actually watch how that ring is attained. And some people have a big part of a ring, and some people don't. That's just ridiculous. So, I mean, Clay Bellinger has a ring. Homer Bush has a ring. Does that make them better than Ted Williams? No. You have to see. You have to watch. You have to see how they contribute. Paul O'Neill's 5 rings mean something. He was a big part of all 5 of those teams. Derek Jeter's 5 rings mean something. And I'm not saying that Homer Bush and Bellinger don't, but you don't just give a ring and say it's each ring is not equal to the other ring, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's so... And listen, he didn't win all of them, but I don't know if you ever remember, Michael, that Don Baylor played in 3 straight World Series with 3 different teams. He was on the 86 Red Sox, he was on the 87 Twins, he was on the 88 A's. All right, is that Don Baylor's magic, or he just happened to be the right place at the right time? You know, sometimes you just got to be on the right team, and sometimes you're just on the wrong team. But if there's a guy that, listen, if Judge's numbers never get any better than what they've been in the postseason, if he plays the next 10 years, they go to the playoffs 8 times, and he's still like a 211 hitter, then I could see where it's not gonna look great for him. But there's also a chance that he can hit like Stanton did a couple of years ago, and you still lose in the first round. Look at Munson's 76 World Series numbers, Michael. Right? They couldn't get him out.
Right.
There's the film footage of Sparky Anderson going out. We can't get that SOB out. The Reds swept the Yankees. Is that Thurman Munson's fault?
We did the always famous, never boring win-loss win game on May 12th.
Yeah, so around the same time. That's probably around the schedule.
Well, the schedule came out on the 11th. We did it on the 12th. But today, schedule's leaking out today, and we're going to do it today.
Well, I think we should still give the Giants, unless you want to give the Giants schedule while doing it.
No. Yeah, while doing it.
Okay.
Rather than be cumbersome. All right, so we gave you the Jets. Monday Night Football, Week 1, at the 49ers. I say loss.
Loss.
That's a loss.
Wow. do we even go on from here?
What are you trying to say?
All right, so that's 3 losses. Sunday, September 15th, at the Titans. I say win.
That's a win.
Sure. Win.
Week 3, Thursday Night Football against the Patriots at home. Win.
Win.
Yeah, it's a win.
Week 4, Sunday, September 29th, at home against the Broncos. I say win.
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 Week 5, October 6th, at the Vikings in London. J.J. McCarthy behind center.
Win.
I'm going to give them a loss there.
I'm going to give them a win.
Nice.
All right. Week 6, against the Bills, Monday Night Football at home. Loss.
Home against the Bills?
Yeah. They always beat the Bills.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a win. At home.
I'm going with a loss.
Sunday, October 20th, at the Steelers, Sunday Night Football.
Oh, that's a loss.
That's a win for me.
Oh, I will go win.
Okay. Week 8, at the Patriots, Sunday. Win.
Win, baby.
Just win.
Week 9, Thursday Night Football. Halloween edition against the Texans at home. I'm going to give them a loss.
I agree.
I didn't hear you say against who again?
At home.
I'm going to give them a loss, too. Texans tough this year.
Week 10, Sunday, November 10th, at the Cardinals. I'm saying that's a win.
I agree. Win.
Win.
Week 11, Sunday Night Football again against the Colts, November 17th. I say that is a win.
And where is that?
At the Colts. No, at home.
Win.
Win, baby.
Week 12, bye. Week 13,
win.
Sunday, December 1st against the Seahawks. Win.
Loss.
No, they don't have a... Okay. They have a new coach.
Win.
Win, okay. Here we go. Week 14, Sunday, December 8th, at the Dolphins. Loss.
Yes, I agree. Loss.
Loss.
Week 15, Sunday, December 15th, at the Jaguars.
Oh, Jaguar.
I'm going to say loss.
I'm going to say win.
Win.
Week 16, Sunday, December 22nd, against the Rams at home. Win.
Win.
Yeah, give them a win.
Week 17, Sunday, December 29th, at the Bills. I'm going to give them a win.
I'm going to give them a loss because I had them winning at home, so.
I'm going to give them a loss just because.
And then the big one, Saturday or Sunday, against the Dolphins at home. I'm going to give them a loss.
I'm going to give them a win because I had them losing at Miami, so.
With the world watching, it's a big old W.
All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3.
I'm 11 and
4,
6.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 and 7.
I'm 11 and 6.
Peter is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 and 5 for Peter.
Really?
Yeah. Jerk.
He's disgusted with
He should be. And Don, you're 11 and 6.
I think
Pinhead Suit has it.
Yeah. 17 and 0.
He says, I think it's a good chance the Jets can start 6 and 2, perhaps finish 11 and 6 overall.
6 and 1.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with my 11 and 6. Before I went into this, I thought that there'd be a 10 or 11 win team, with obviously with a healthy Rodgers. 12, I think Peter's out of his mind.
Yeah, I agree. and by the way, I just want to say, if Rodgers is lost again, just reverse the number for me.
I think that's.
But, there is no Zach Wilson, so don't worry.
Right. All right, so let's go with the G-Man.
All right, let me see if I
Big
can
Blue.
If I can
Big
find
Blue Wrecking
that.
Crew.
If you will.
The New York Football Giants.
Wait. Hold on. This whole conversation's been football? I got to start over again.
What do you think we're doing? The Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, I thought it was the Winnipeg Jets and the baseball Giants of oldie times.
Okay, here we go. Giants schedule. Unofficial in the Post.
Sure, why not?
September 8th at home against the Vikings. I'm going to give them a win.
That's a win.
Win.
Sunday, September 15th at the Commanders. Big W for me.
Yeah, that's a win.
No, that's a loss.
Gutless. Sunday, September 22nd at the Browns. I say loss.
That's a loss.
Loss.
Thursday Night Football, Week 4 against the Cowboys at home. I say that's a loss.
That's a loss.
Big win. Cowboys stink.
Sunday, October 6th, at the Seahawks. Win.
Loss.
Loss.
Wow. You guys are thinking highly of a no Pete Carroll team.
Okay, why don't we just relax?
Sunday Night Football. Sunday, October 13th, against the Bengals. I say loss.
Loss.
Against the Bengals?
Yeah.
Joe Burrow and the Bengals?
Yeah.
That's a loss.
Week 7. Sunday, October 20th, against the Eagles. Give me a win.
At the Eagles?
No. I would have said at the Eagles if it was.
I know, but
Home Eagles, and you're giving him a win?
I'm giving him a win.
No, I'm giving him a big old fat loss.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Can you make it 2?
They are going to hold Saquon Barkley to 31 yards on the ground on 30 carries. Week 8, October 28th, at the Steelers. Monday Night Football. Loss.
I mean, I just can't have every game. I'm going to say win just because I can't have that.
No, I like it too, Don. I'm going to throw him a little win there too. Why not?
Sunday, November 3rd, at home against the Commanders. Another win. Commanders stink. You have a win, Don?
Yes.
No, it's a loss. They're getting swept by the commies this year. Jaden Daniels, MVP. A lot going on.
Also, that primetime game in Pittsburgh is going to be the Mark Cannizzaro Memorial game.
Why?
Not that he's passed on. Is that there? I have the Giants won in Pittsburgh on a Monday night game, and they were showing George Young. And next to George Young was a young Mark Cannizzaro just devouring a hot dog. And I've got it on tape, and it's hilarious. And I always think about that when the Giants play the Steelers. I love you, Mark.
Week 10, Sunday, November 10th, at the Carolina Panthers. It's in Munich, Germany, by the way. I'm going to give the Giants a win.
The Giants the Giants in Germany, it just works.
Throw the records
away.
away.
When you see a big NFC East, NFC South clash in Frankfurt or Munich, Germany, you throw the record books out and you pick the G-men.
Week 11 is a bye. Week 12, Sunday, November 24th, against the Tampa Bay Bucks at home. I'm going to give them a win.
Win.
Oh, you know what? A big old fat W.
Thanksgiving, November 28th, at the Cowboys. Loss.
What's more than a loss?
They'll lose twice.
Week 14, Sunday, December 8th, against the New Orleans Saints. Win.
Win.
Loss.
Wow. Week 15, Sunday, December 15th, against the Ravens at home. I say loss.
That's a loss. Although they beat them last year at home, but still, I'm with you. Loss.
Ravines, loss.
Then, Sunday, December 22nd, at the Falcons. I'm going to give them a win.
Yeah, I win as well.
Against the Falcons?
Remember, that's Kirk Cousins' Falcons.
Yeah, loaded at the quarterback position. That's a loss.
Loaded at Jace.
Week 17, December 28th or the 29th, Saturday or Sunday, against the Colts at home. Win.
Win.
Week 18, Saturday or Sunday, January 4th or January 5th, at the Eagles. That's a loss.
No, Eagles have the division wrapped up. They sit everyone. The Giants get a win.
Interesting.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have them 10 and 7.
I'm 9 and 8.
You're a fool.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Here's the realistic
7, 8,
number.
9 and 8. Peter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 and 10.
I guarantee you I just nailed that. I guarantee you.
I was going to say, he feels a lot better about that than he does his Jets.
I hate my Jets. I hate my Jets pick. But that's because doing the Jets thing is ridiculous, because we're going under this misguided assumption that this lunatic is going to play quarterback full season.
Wait a minute.
I have no reason to believe that he will. Whereas the Giants, I know what they are. The Giants,
how can you say that? No, seriously. Because Daniel Jones is just as likely to get hurt as Aaron Rodgers.
Are you saying this because of the Tucker Carlson interview? Is that what you're doing?
Well, no, I just moved to the Giants for Lord's sake. And no, Tucker Carlson has nothing to do with it. I don't care. I don't care about the man's belief system. This notion, to me, the assumption that the Jets will play a full season with Aaron Rodgers is a silly thing to assume.
So you're going with silly?
How about absurd?
I like silly. It's softer.
How about wishful? If you want to go very optimistic. I'm not saying it can't happen. I hope it does happen. But I don't have my brain. It's very hard to picture. Like, you guys honestly look into the future, And you picture a year from now, we're looking back on the 16, 17 games that Aaron Rodgers has played. He threw up 4,000 yards. He just looked like the old A-Raj. Is that what is going to happen?
That's how they're betting.
Yeah, I just can't picture it. I wish
the
I could.
NFL's thinking is that they got him 6 primetime games.
Oh, they love him.
So I'm going to let you all in a little secret. I'm a big football fan. And I have never had NFL Sunday Ticket. And I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
So many games are on TV. The best games are on TV. And because I do the show, I have to see the Giants and the Jets. They're always on in New York. Thursday Night Football is a great game. I have Amazon Prime. Sunday Night Football is always a great game. Monday night, I watch all of those. And I'm not a bettor. I don't bet. So I don't need...
And you don't do fantasy.
Right, I don't do fantasy, so there's no need for me. But this caught my eye today because Don has been a long time NFL Sunday Ticket. How about you, Peter? I don't think so, right?
No, yes.
You
Long
have.
time. Yes.
The prices just came out. So NFL Sunday Ticket has moved to YouTube.
That was last year, was the first year of YouTube, yeah.
Do you know what it is, the price for the NFL Sunday Ticket package?
$2,500.
$679.99. And if you want the Red Zone, it comes out to $739.99.
Wait. That's if you don't have YouTube TV or even if you have YouTube
Even if you
TV?
have it.
I have to look this up.
Now, Don, what have you always paid for the NFL Sunday Ticket?
No, I don't handle the money, Michael.
It wasn't that, though. I'll tell you that.
I started doing it in '97, and then until the last year was on DirecTV, so I had it through 2022.
Right.
I forget, but I
think it was about $200.
No,
right?
it might have. By the time I was out, it was probably around $350, maybe somewhere in that area.
Well, that's a lot more reasonable than $679.
Well, because
so hold on. Let me help with some math here. If you get, I'm looking at it right now, and by the way, this still isn't good, so please don't think I mean otherwise. It says NFL Sunday Ticket only.
Right.
4 payments of $119.75.
So
that's $480 That's before tax, I'm guessing, though.
But
So
I don't
it's-
think the taxes would take it up to $679.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So there may be a lower price than you're.
So where did you,
aware of.
Anthony? When you looked it up for me, where did you get that info? It was in a story today, right?
I saw it on a story today.
Yeah.
So there are different situations, and who knows? I could get into it, and then it says, "Oh, don't you already have YouTube TV?" I don't know, but either way, guys, this is insane, though.
Isn't it interesting? It almost
this is a
piggybacks on
huge
what
jump.
you said yesterday.
Huh.
I mean, the prices are just, and you know, as long as people pay for it, they're going to continue to charge it. And for some people, this is like air. So if YouTube came out and says, you know what, it's $1,000, a lot of people would pay for it.
Yeah, I don't, guys. I don't know if I can do this one. Just on principle, the lowest I'm seeing, Again, I just don't want to get this wrong, but it's definitely up over $300 a year minimum, maybe over $400. I don't think it's $600. But Michael, this is exactly what we talked about.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing as the concerts. Where do you draw the line? Like, especially living in New York, guys, because for me, it's a little bit more challenging. But like, I can go to a bar in my neighborhood. Like, I don't have, if I want to watch the Commanders, I can go to Blondie's. Fortunately, Michael, we have a wonderful relationship with Blondie's.
I love those people.
I'm sure they'd hold a little table for me in front of a Commanders TV. And I could, but wherever your local bar is, you can pull up a seat every week and go watch your team. You don't have to do this.
No, when I first got it in '97, it was before I was working the Jets. I started doing the Jets in '02, and I still kept it the 16 years I did the Jets because I still saw value in when the Jets had a bye or the Jets were the Monday night game or whatever, because I really just enjoyed watching all the football. But what I noticed as we've gotten to this point, like Michael's right, you've got the Thursday night game, you've got the 9:30 kick from Amsterdam, there's the Sunday night game, there's the Monday night game.
You have the doubleheader.
So I felt like I wasn't getting as many games as I was back in the day. Now with the Jets and Giants both being at 1 o'clock,
1 o'clock is still where you're going to get the bulk of your games. There's only maybe 3 or 4 o'clock games, and with the Jets and the Giants playing so many games at 1 o'clock at the same time, you were guaranteed to get one of the 4 o'clock games. I just didn't feel like I was getting a lot of games, and as much as I love football, I'm not going to sit there and watch Panthers Falcons,
right?
Because that's not a game that floats my boat.
This cleans it up a little bit, okay? The Apple Store surcharge effect has now happened with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. John Oran noted in his varsity newsletter at Puck Monday, the NFL Sunday Ticket product is now available through the YouTube app on Apple iPhone or iPad products, but at a cost of $679.99 annually without NFL Red Zone, or $719.99 annually with it. That's a massive jump over the current regular prices of $379.99 and $419.99 for those packages with a YouTube TV subscription. There are some further discounts right now for those that don't already subscribe to YouTube TV, or $479.99 and $519.99 without a YouTube TV subscription. Should be noted that there is not a separate NFL Sunday Ticket app in the Apple Store. This is about in-app purchases through the YouTube app or the YouTube TV app. Does that clarify it a little bit, Peter?
A little bit, but I'm still. Honestly, I feel like they make it intentionally challenging. Like, it says, I'm looking at their website right now. I went to choose a plan. It says NFL Sunday Ticket plus YouTube TV. 4 payments of $146 a month for both. Now that $146 a month, Michael, what does that get? That gets up close to $600, though.
Yeah.
Then there's one below it that says NFL Sunday Ticket only. Already have local and national games? Watch out-of-market games that aren't broadcast on your local channels.
And think about the out-of-market games you're going to get. As Don said, you're going to get the Panthers.
Well,
because every big game is on TV.
No, well, but I just looked at our schedule, my schedule.
Yeah.
My team's playing crap games.
Well, so then if you want to see the Commanders, you need it.
I need it. We do not have Don, listen, at Bucks, no. At Bengals, at Cardinals, versus Browns. I mean, these games are not on TV here.
No, but if you're a Cowboy fan in New York, considering the 2 times you play the Giants, all the times that you're on national television, but there's still probably a handful of games that will only be regional that you want to be able to watch it. Now, the other thing that what ruined Sunday Ticket for me was the Red Zone. Because before Red Zone, like I was flipping to all the games. And then Red Zone would come. I'd still be flipping to all the games, but it's amazing how it times itself out. They all seem to be in commercial at the same time. Like, so one game's in commercial, flip over, they're in commercial. Or I'm watching a drive with the Dolphins at their own 20-yard line, and then I want to flip over to something. I missed the touchdown. So I feel like I'm bouncing around the 4 or 5 games. I end up not seeing anything because I keep missing because I'm on the wrong game when something happens. The Red Zone takes care of that for you. Like, just now, every time somebody's about to score, they're going to show you. They're going to split the screen. You have 4 different screens. Like, so I found myself paying all this money for Sunday Ticket and yet spending 80% of the time watching Red Zone, which I would have gotten anyway without the ticket.
Now, Anthony Greek, who produces on the Yes Side, said he has a YouTube TV base plan. And he just clicked it. It says $379 a year, or 4 payments of $94.75. If he gets it with Red Zone, it's $419, or 4 payments of $104.75, which seems a little bit more reasonable.
So basic is without Red Zone.
And so I guess if you want this one, your iPhone or update through the app, it's $679.
But that makes no sense because it already says here. They literally make this impossible. I'm pretty good at this stuff, guys. Like I do a lot of streaming. I use DAZN. I order on payperview.com. I order wrestling pay-per-view. I do everything. They make this intentionally hard.
It's because they want you to hit the wrong button where you're paying $679.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks like it says if you only want the Sunday Ticket on YouTube, again, watch Sunday out-of-market afternoon games directly on YouTube with your TV. Wait for this, though, Don. With your TV and supported devices. Wouldn't that imply phones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Supports unlimited in-home streams and 2 streams outside your home. No additional plans required. So that means you don't need to get a base plan. This is just to get the out-of-market games, and it's $429 a year.
But is there some sort of
There's a surcharge on Apple.
Yeah. Is Apple one of the devices you can use on that package?
It would have to be.
Maybe not.
But maybe not, because if you buy it through the Apple store, there's a surcharge.
Unless that would be truly insane if you could just get around that $200 fee by simply doing it on your desktop and not on your phone.
And this is one of the times Don, who's a Neanderthal, does not have an Apple phone. It pays off for him.
Apparently.
Because when I had the Sunday ticket on DirecTV, I was able to download the DirecTV app, and I'd be able to watch the games on the tablet, no extra charge. But now they realize that people with YouTube, they're going to want to be able to watch it on their phone so they could be on the go. But it sounds, because the majority of people have the iPhone, that if you have an iPhone, you're probably going to have to pay more.
And so many games are on apps anyway. Like if you want to see a game on CBS, like if I want to see the Giant game and I'm watching my son play a basketball game at that time,
right?
Just the Paramount Plus app.
If it's local.
Yeah, if it's local.
So what people are saying is it really looks like if you're kind of what you said, Peter, if you're too lazy to go to your desktop or a device that isn't on the App Store to buy this thing, it will cost you $679.
So what if I just want, if when I'm out, I don't want to watch a game? What if I just want to watch it on my TV? What does it cost?
I think it's what Peter and Don were talking about, where it's, if you have this base plan, what was it, Peter, $349 or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And if you do that and you sign up through, like Peter said, sign up through your desktop, you could probably use it through your iPhone as long as you don't sign up or download it through the App Store.
I want this to be a lesson to everybody, because there's going to be a team during the season, I'm talking about baseball, during the offseason, that's going to pay Juan Soto $60 million a year. And the fans are going to be clamoring, give him whatever he wants. So if, in fact, that team is the Mets, and then you start to cry and moan that the chicken bucket at Citi Field has gone up to $40, you got no kick coming. Same thing at the Yankees, give them the $60 million. All of a sudden, your chicken bucket is $50. You have no kick coming, because big-time businessmen don't spend a lot of money to improve their product and not pass it along to the consumer. So everybody said, oh, YouTube paid so much money to get the rights. Well, you think they're in the business to not get it back, Peter? It's always going to be passed on to you, so be careful what you wish for.
Right. Yeah, it's true. There's no world in which we just get a win.
But what's so interesting about football, because I know a lot of diehard fans that love their team, never went to a game. So they look at, all right, that's their one expense. All right, I'm gonna pay between $350 and $679 this season to consume football. It's a lot of money, but I'm not going to games. I'm not getting gouged for the parking and for the price of pizza and beer the way you do with baseball, because those are sports, hockey too, that's driven by attendance. Football would make billions of dollars, Michael, if nobody showed up to the games. And there's a lot of people like, all right, that's my one expense. I'll pay $600 a year to be able to watch my football, but all right, I can live with that because I'm not going to the games. I'm not getting gouged in that way.
Shining Wizards Kevin has a great line on Twitter. He said, for me to pay $6.79 for the NFL Sunday ticket, the NFL and Apple would need to also cater my meals for me and all of my friends every Sunday.
But he's in the minority, because most people gladly hand this over. Because for that one day, having access to every single game, people love it. Like if you took a poll, I bet you still the majority of people would say, I've got no problem paying.
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees. This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
Let's go to Richie in Kingston. Richie.
Johnny, that's a nice breakfast. Hello, Michael. Hello, Dan. How are you guys?
Good. What's up?
No, Dan's
Here's
not
what's
here.
up. Listen, both of you understand baseball more than anybody that I know of, other than my father, God rest his soul. Listen, this is one thing which perturbs me. Boone cannot actually make these ball players, and I mean the guys that you put on the field, hit the ball, catch the ball, throw the ball. However, he's the commander as far as the bullpen, so he makes the majority of the moves. Now, please tell me this. Why does he keep on going to Holmes? He is not a closer. He's worse than Chapman ever was. When he comes in, he gives you a heart attack.
Well, what does that matter? What does that matter?
Pardon me?
What does it matter if he gives you a heart attack as long as he gets the job done? Now, he's blown 10 saves, but as a closer, Richie, I don't know if you realize, he made the All-Star team.
Michael, you and I both know. All-Star team is one thing. The Yankees should have had at least 6 more wins. He blew 10 saves.
I get it. He has not had a good year, but you can't say he stinks. Well, he made the All-Star team, Rich.
Who do you want to see close?
Yeah, who do you want to close instead of him?
Go in that bullpen, and there's 3 guys in there that you could pick and make them a start, make them a closer.
Yeah, who are they?
Clay Holmes is not a closer.
Well, tell me the guys that can close.
Get a 1, 2,
tell
3.
me the guys who can close. I'd like to know.
I think that guy Ian is pretty good.
He's been hurt for 3 months.
Pretty good.
Ian Hamilton's been hurt for 3 months. What else?
I know that. He's hurt for 3 months. What about that young kid? I can't think of his name. Winters?
Who?
The young kid that comes in on the 6th or 7th inning. Oh, God. I can't think of his name right now.
Well,
but the point I'm trying to make
no
is
idea if any of these guys can close. Now, I agree with you. Holmes has struggled. He's got 10 blown saves, but you got to give me an option. If there's a flamethrower, strikeout guy that they're missing on, then you should kill Boone for not going to that guy. Michael, that guy doesn't exist. For all I know, that they can bring in somebody to make it worse.
Well, people,
all indications are they would.
People are myopic about their own team, which I understand. They're a fan of that said team. How do Met fans feel about Edwin Diaz, who's a great closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gave up a go-ahead winning run in San Diego to Jackson Merrill, and then gave up a grand slam to Corbin Carroll.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry. I think the best closer in baseball is probably Josh Hader, and he's a thrill a minute every now and then.
But I don't even want to go there. I do think they can do better than Holmes in theory. I just don't know if it's on their roster. Listen, I don't want to kill the guy, but he brought up a guy that's on the IL and can't think of the other guy's name. So that basically the answer is I don't know. He's frustrated with Holmes. I get you should be frustrated with Holmes. He leads the league in blown saves. But for all we know, Boone can bring in somebody else who would be even worse. I have to assume they know better than we do. He must still be their best option. Now, if you want to kill Cashman for not getting a closer at the deadline, have at it. What closer was available, Michael?
No.
What closer did a team get that the Yankees could have gotten that would have been better than Holmes?
The closest was the guy that the Padres acquired from the Marlins.
Okay, so if you want to get
Scott, that's the closest.
All right, so if you want to call up and kill Cashman for not getting Scott, well, then I think that's a good retort. That's a good phone call. But just I hate Holmes. I'm going to kill Boone for bringing him in. Who do you want him to bring in? Anybody? Well, anybody could be 10 times worse.
You call up and say the one thing I can't really handle. He stinks. He doesn't stink. Has he had a great year? No. He's lost. He's blown 10 saves. 7 of them ended up being Yankee losses. So if they'd won just 4 of those 7, they'd be in much better shape. I get it. So I'm not saying he's Sparky Lyle, Goose Gossage, and Mariano Rivera thrown into one pile. He's not. He's not a perfect closer, but he doesn't stink everybody.
But even if you,
I love he makes you sweat. So what? So what? Mariano's a once-in-a-lifetime pitcher, so this guy makes you sweat.
Hey, I think it's a problem, and if you don't want to say he stinks, fine. But that's Boone's problem for continuing to go with him. What is their alternative, Michael? They don't have anybody that throws 96 that's going to miss bats and strike people out. That's what they're missing. And that's why Holmes is a thrill a minute, because he puts the ball in play. And whenever you do that, Michael, your heart's going to be in your throat, because there's a chance it'll find a seam. There's a chance they'll throw the ball around the infield and they'll blow the save. So I get it. He's not the perfect closer. You'd like to have somebody else. Who?
Yeah, you don't have an answer. If you don't have an answer, then Boone is going with the best guy he has available. He doesn't think the other guys can close. He doesn't think that Kane Lee can close. He just doesn't think it. The organization probably doesn't think it.
And if he just for blanks and giggles decided to have Canely come in to close and he blows the save, what are the calls going to be the next day? Why didn't he use Holmes?
Right. Don,
nothing makes the manager worse. He's always said that than a bad bullpen.
Let's go to Jack in Medina. Jack.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Can I talk? Get back to a little bit of baseball.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, Clay Holmes, you're right. He does not stink. None of these guys at this level, even single A, none of these guys stink. The players, I know a few players that have made it to double A. They tell me the biggest thing is consistency. Now, we've seen Clay Holmes when he's lights out. Is there any chance, and they tell me it's all about mechanics, repeating the mechanics over and over. Is there any way you guys could somehow convince the Yankees to get maybe Matt Blake or Mike Harkey on the show to pick their brain and see what they do to these guys to get them, to get them consistent?
Well, I mean, they have all these high-tech Rapsodo machines that show the exact release point. I think a lot of it with Clay has to do when he sits too long. And then, the Yankees have a rule they don't pitch anybody more than 2 days. So it's a delicate balancing act. Sometimes when he's too strong, his sinker stays up. Then he relies on the slider. So, I mean, I think they're pretty consistent, and they work on those guys to have consistency. I can't speak to what they do. I mean, I'll talk to Matt Blake about it, but I think a lot of it has to do with usage. And with a closer, you get 5 games in a row that aren't save situations, and you don't use them, and then you bring him into a game that's not a save situation because you don't want him stale, and he pitches, and then the next day's a save situation, and he does well, and then the next day's a save situation, you don't use them because you don't use them 3 days in a row. It's a tightrope walk. It really is. I don't know. I mean, you're using the word consistency because sometimes he's great and sometimes he's not. Who can explain it? He was great over the first 2.5 months of the season to make the All-Star team. He was great.
I do think you're right about the balls in play. You know how baseball is, Michael. So a broken bat single, you can hit a ball as hard as you ever hit it, and it's an out. The reason you love strikeouts is it takes the element of surprise out, the good luck, bad luck. You strike them out, done, sit down. But once the ball's in play, a lot of things can happen, and we have seen. I'm not going to make excuses for him, Michael, but you do see sometimes at Holmes. You go, God, he blew the save, but did anybody hit the ball hard?
Right.
But the ball's in play, and there could be errors. The ball finds a hole, and sometimes it's just like one of those things. He is what he is. Sometimes he hits it hit to the shortstop. Sometimes it finds a hole. Is it just that?
I don't know. It's hard to figure out because there have been some blown saves where he's been victimized by balls finding holes, and other times he's been squared up. So I don't know. He's been inconsistent. He really has. But it's not like they're not working on his consistency. I take this phone call with incredible trepidation, guys.
All right.
Paul and Trenton.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. That was very sweet. The tone of it was nice.
Okay, Mike, I'm
Emotional.
listening, but I'm not agreeing. First of all, where's Cabrera? He hit well every time he comes in, or lately, 2 hits. He's not even in the lineup.
He's not a good right-handed hitter, Paul. There's a lefty on the mound.
He's a switch hitter. I don't care if he's not good. You're telling me
do you realize what you just said?
Davis
Wait a minute. You just said you don't care if he's not good? You just said that.
Look, he's gotten 2 hits in
as
how
a
many games in the
left-handed
last
batter.
30?
He's not a good right-handed hitter. He's been
He
riding
stinks.
left-handed against left-handed pitching. It's not
All right.
working.
Yeah.
Okay, and how about Rice? You bought Rice up.
Right.
You brought him up to see what he can do, not to sit on the bench because
He has played every game since he's been up. He's sitting tonight. He's 4 for his last 44, and in the series against the Rays, he went 1 for 16. Maybe sit him down today, Paul.
But he is at least can hit one ball. A guy can make a mistake. At least you know the ball's going to go in the seats. With this J.D. Davis, forget it. You got no chance.
He's 4 for 44 and was 1 for 16. Does that matter to you?
Yeah, it matters because this way we find out how he's going to be.
No. We're not in the business of finding out. We're in the business of trying to win games. They're putting the lineup they think that could win a game. Find out. He's played every day since he's been called up, Paul.
Yeah. There's only one other thing I say. I'm in agreement with the they should be batting third and fourth.
Why?
That's
Why?
The only thing. Because what is that one extra bat going to be?
Paul,
how many times have you seen where he didn't even get
batting
up?
third, right? Batting third. Aaron Judge has 89 runs batted in, more than anybody in baseball. How's it working out? Why should they move him?
Yeah, because the 89 runs are in games that they're either getting bombed or they're bombing.
So that's what you think. So it doesn't matter if he bats cleanup or if he bats eighth. You think that he doesn't get important hits.
And he happens to hit one of them, that might win a game.
Why can't he win a game batting third?
Because there's only one guy that hits besides him.
But that doesn't matter. So if they have Soto third and Judge fourth, you're just moving them down 2 spots, and Soto might come up with 2 outs and nobody on in the first inning, and Judge might not even get at him bat. What are you talking about? Why does it matter?
It does matter.
No, tell me why.
If it was me,
tell me why. Paul, tell me why it matters. Why? Why does it matter?
Why? Because you see what they're doing. They're not winning with the...
But they only have 2 hitters out of 9. Why does it matter if you bat them 7th or 8th or 3rd and 4th or 2nd and 3rd? Why does it matter moving them to 3rd and 4th? I need to have an answer.
Why does it matter?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it matters to me because I think they would be better equipped. You'd find somebody that could get on base.
Who? All right, let's stop there. Let's stop there. Let's stop there, Paul. Who can you find? Where are you getting that player? Are you going to Walmart and going to aisle 3? Who's the guy getting on base?
They have enough talent that they should be hitting these balls. They got enough talent on there.
Don, help me out.
Well, I'm going to help you out. And Paul, thank you for the phone call. And the last guy, thank you for the phone call. I understand this game has changed. And you don't like it. But get over it. It's not going to change back. So you got to give me... Their reason, Michael, that they don't want to say is because that's the way I like it, because that's the way it always was when I grew up as a fan. That's not a reason. Sorry. So you got 2 choices. One, accept it, or go find something else to do.
But here's what I don't get, Don. Moving them down 1 spot in the order, what does it do?
Because
they haven't had a good leadoff hitter this year.
You're getting wrapped up. They don't have a reason, because their reason is that's always the way it was. How can Aaron Judge hit 1,000 home runs and bat third? How can Juan Soto, who's going to finish with 40 home runs, bat second? They can't wrap their mind around that. Speedy guys batted first and second. Home run hitters batted third and fourth. That's the way it was for 100 years. They wanted to go back to that. So you're asking them to answer the question. That's the answer, because there's no legitimate other answer. It's changed and they don't like it, right? We don't hear 25-year-olds calling with it. It's the old school guys, because that's the way it always was.
Yeah, I get it, but then when you ask them questions, they get somebody that will get on base in front of them. I want to know who. They don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. It's not Ricky Henderson sitting in the clubhouse.
Now, if
Anthony Volpe was the perfect leadoff hitter when he was hitting 290. And it's gone downhill since then. Ben Rice was doing great leading off. Now he's 4 for 44. Now they're trying out Jahmai Jones. They don't have a great roster right now.
Now, if you want to complain and say, why don't they have some of those guys, considering the fact that they changed the rules to steal more bases, where you can play a little small ball and you can try to steal some bags when you're struggling, that's a better question. Like, why don't they have more athletic guys? But that's the way they decided to build the team, and they're not going to be able to change it right now. Aaron Boone only has what's on his bench, Michael.
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees. This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees. This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
Let's listen to Brian Dable on the Malik Neighbors number situation.
You know, I know he's very appreciative to Flaherty family for allowing him to wear that number. You know, I'd say ask Malik about the number. The most important thing for us is to help Malik be the best football player he can be. So I know he's very appreciative to the family. I know he spoke to them. I know he spoke to John. So that's his number, and we're getting ready to play football.
He doesn't want any part of this. There's no way he wants any part of this.
And I will say this to defend Dable. I mean, he can only live in the now, because he can lose his job if the season goes sideways, right? So he doesn't have the luxury to think about the history of the Giants. He only can focus on 2024. But the owner of the Giants, especially somebody whose father's name is on the football, does have the luxury to think about their history and protect the history.
I'm going to try to hide this as best I can.
Don't hide.
This is a guy, just emailed me. I know him very well. He used to work for an NFL team. He's been 50 years in pro sports. This is what he said. This is not just nobody, all right? It is an absolute disgrace that the Giants gave away Flaherty's number. A disgrace, an insult to their history. There's still time to change it, fix it before the season begins. This is a huge, monumental error, a GD disgrace.
He's right. He's right because,
and he has no dog in the fight here.
Because you know what makes these family-owned teams special is this isn't some corporation that bought the Giants that don't care about the history, don't understand the history. And if that were to happen, it would be still disgraceful. But I guess you'd figure, well, they just don't know any better because they've owned the team for 5 minutes or don't care about the history or whatever. It's just a money-making venture for them. This is the Maras. They could go back to the beginning of the infancy of the franchise. If anybody should get it, it's John. His father's Wellington Mara. His grandfather bought the team for $2,500. I mean, this is part of their history. He is the New York Giant. He should get that. He should understand that. His father was at the sneaker game. So he understands and acknowledges this history. And we live in a world now where history doesn't matter anymore because the hedge fund guys that buy these teams, the people that run it, they live in the now. They don't care about the history. Sports should honor the history, and it should be protected. And the person that should protect it is somebody whose father's name is on the football, that is a part. You can't tell the history of football without telling the Giants' history and the Maras' history. And that's something that John should be held responsible. Yes, he should put the best team on the field, and he should try to win a Super Bowl without question. But another part of his job should be to be able to protect the legacy of this Giants franchise, and that's part of their history. And he let that slide through his fingers.
Let's go to Joey in Montclair. Joey.
Hey, guys. Great show as always. Thank you for having me on.
You got it.
Pete, I think you nailed on the head before when you're talking about the Giant way. You know, part of the reason I'm a huge Giant fan is I love, like, the class and the history of the organization. And this is the complete opposite of class. Like, really, what number now is off limits when it comes to playing for the Giants? Like, I can't picture the Yankees giving Ohtani 23 or any number that's retired. Because when a number's retired, it should be retired forever. And not for nothing, shame on Joe Shane, right? Part of the job of the GM is trying to sell players on coming to your team. You couldn't sell Malik Neighbors on creating your own legacy. Create your own number. This number's retired, but make a new story for yourself. Like, this should not have been a hard sale. This not even should have been a conversation to have.
See, but one thing I'm wary about, Joey, and I hear what you're saying, and we thank you for the call. I'm not going to blame Neighbors. Athletes in general are going to be about themselves, so he can ask for whatever number he wants. You know, the answer is no. We don't have that number available. It's retired.
When Jim Fossil became head coach of the Giants, one of the first things Wellington did was give him a book on the history of the franchise. So the caller is right in the extent that when you join the Giants, you should be aware of their history. You should be aware of what you represent and what you're trying to become here. Those numbers are what you aspire to become. That's what I would tell them. You want number one? All right, you know what? Take whatever number and you make it your own. And then one day, maybe you're as good as Flaherty, as good as Lawrence Taylor, as good as Sims, as good as Manning, and you'll get your number retired too. Because we have a history, and that's what you represent when you take that field. It should be important and protected. Listen, what can Joe Shane do if he doesn't have the backing of the owner? Right? I mean, what's Joe Shane supposed to fight with John Mara over
I think this is all Mara. There's no way Shane said, "Hey, could you really get him Flaherty's number? Can you get him Ray Flaherty's number?" No way. He's got other things to worry about. This is all John Mara. Really, it's a pejorative term, being fat hands. He should not have done this. This is a man of power and wealth bothering a family that it seems like it's an average family. Awful. Bad job by John Mara. This guy I like, too. But the Giants have done some things in the last 15 years really make you wonder. Really make you wonder. We had a spirited discussion in the 4 o'clock hour about the Giants putting the Flaherty family in an uncomfortable situation to unretire their dad's number so that Malik Neighbors could have it. Well, Malik Neighbors spoke at the Giant facility, and he talked about choosing his number.
We had a lot of situations dealing with what number I was going to wear. We saw in the locker room asked about numbers, but I feel like this was the best route that I went. Grateful and thankful to the family for letting me wear this number. I know this number has been worn for 80 to 90 years, so for me to be chosen to wear this number, only favor to God. I'm God's child, so He put me in the right position.
He was asked why number 1.
Why 1? What's appealing about 1?
I just felt like it was the best situation, the number to go at, really.
Does it look good?
I mean, it look good, feel good.
Does it mean anything? Does it have any meaning other than...
No, it don't have no meaning, but, it has a meaning in this organization. He's been retired for so long. Thank you for the Flaherty family for letting me wear it.
If it has no meaning to you, then why wear it?
Well, he wanted a single digit, right?
There are single digits available that would not cause the stink.
Right. Well, that's why when he
because
kept saying,
what did he wear 9 during the preseason?
Yeah, he was 9 until yesterday. Well, I just feel like he said that this was the best route. How? How is that the best route?
But what I take from it is that if they had said no to him, I think he'd be fine with it.
So do I. You can say no to people.
And he's saying all the right things because he probably understands how awkward it is, and he wants to honor that. So I've got no problem with Neighbors. He asked a question, he got an answer. The answer was yes, and he's running with it. And I guess I don't have any problem with the Flaherty family. If they want to give the number up, I guess they have that choice, whether they were pressured into it or whatever. But I just don't get why the Giants even made the phone call to ask when it doesn't sound like it was that big of a deal anyway. Are they that we desperately need to be good, and Neighbors is going to give her a chance to be good, and we're going to be able to pay $40 million to Daniel Jones because he'll be good again. So you're falling all over yourself because of the quality of the player, that you're disrespecting your history? We don't know what he's going to be. I think he's going to be a really good player, but it sounds like he would have been just as good a player wearing 9. And how about the people, because I've seen this on social media too, that went out and bought the 9 Neighbors jersey?
Yeah, I was thinking that. What happens there? Don't you have to give a year's notice before you switch a number?
I guess, well, how else am I supposed to think of it, Michael, that I guess that maybe we're honoring the history more than the Giants feel they have to honor it. God, that's such an awkward phone call, man. How do you make it? You just can't say no? You're that scared of these players now?
Oh, he needs number 1. Let me call the Flaherty family.
But did you get any sense during the sound that we played that he was going to make it an issue if they said
no? But, even if he was, you know what? Sometimes it's tougher when you discipline young people. I mean, my kids kick up a stink when we tell them no. We know they're going to kick up a stink, and you still do it. John Mara should know better. And again, he should have an appreciation of the history of the organization more than any person alive.
So now, because we talk about your favorite phrase and our show's favorite phrase, you don't do these things in a vacuum.
No, never in a vacuum, Don.
So next year's draft pick, if they want 10, 11, 56, whatever number's retired, Mel Hines' number. So then I guess John Mara has to make the phone call.
I want him to make the phone call to LT. I want to hear that. I want to hear the phone call to LT. LT, we just picked this linebacker from Alabama. He has to have number 56. LT might drop an F-bomb.
I know what he'll say.
What will he say?
Happens,
and they won't know. Did he?
No one will know.
What did he say? I
just go with it. I think he's fine.
I really don't know what he said. But because if you say no to anybody else, like the next guy that wants 7, that's Mel Hines' number, Hall of Fame center, then you would be disrespectful to the Flaherty family if you said no to that player. You'd now have to call the Hines family and get their permission. That is now, I guess, the standard now. All you have to do is ask for a retired number. They will call the family. So get ready. If you've got a Giant in your family that is the number retired, you're going to get a phone call from John Mara at some point asking you to change it.
And, another phrase we like to use here, you've now opened up a Pandora's box.
That's it. So if I'm the Hine family, the Sims family, the Taylor family, anybody's number's retired.
Unlist your number.
No, what I would do is I would call the Giants today and say, by the way, lose the number.
Well, you know what I would do? I think you know what I would do. You want me to unretire the number? It's going to cost you some cash.
Right. $10 billion.
I want $1 million for you to give that number out right now. Right now, tell me. You got okay? I'm good. Then it stays unretired.
No, but all serious. I mean, you're being serious because that's you. I would call up John Mara and say, by the way, if anybody asks for the number, the answer is no. So don't even bother making the phone call.
He is. Really, he's embarrassed the Giant organization by doing this.
I mean, now are you going too far?
No, I don't think so.
Embarrass the organization? I don't know.
One of the strengths of this organization, you even brought up the Giant way. There is no Giant way.
Now, that I agree. I agree that they're definitely doing a bad job with their identity as this sort of team that has a way, a Giant way. But I don't know. Is it going to be a thing that they really... I just think embarrassing themselves as an organization feels.
Well, I read you an email from somebody that's been in the NFL for 50 years. 50. It's an embarrassment what they did. It's an embarrassment. But for a guy who's a rookie, again, don't make a comparable with Y.A. Tittle. It's a completely different thing.
But now you've set the precedent, Peter, that it's worth the ask.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime you want any of the retired numbers, Frank Gifford 16, we'll call the
Kathy
family.
Lee, can we have that 16? Well, what's Kathy Lee going to say?
Right up your you-know-what.
Well, especially now that there's already been a family that said yes, so now you probably feel even more pressure. You don't want to look like, the family that's putting your family above somebody. It sets a bad press. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Peter, like embarrassing, but listen, I'm a Giant fan. I'm embarrassed because I think this history is supposed to be important, and I guess it's not really all that important. So the Giants are really just like every other franchise. And let's also be honest, Michael, too, anytime a franchise says we're above it, no franchise.
No.
I mean, every franchise in some way, shape, or form embarrasses themselves for the
when they did that thing with the kicker, Don.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There's no Giant way anymore. And they drafted that Peters kid from Nebraska. There's no Giant way. It's how do we win?
And it's every organization. I mean, the Yankees have had their embarrassing moments, and the Dodgers, like all these franchises can look at it and say, oh, well, never on our watch. Nah, it probably happened on your watch, too, because that's the way things are now. But I know there's a whole generation of people that think, what's the big deal? It's 100 years ago. I'm sorry. I mean, just put yourself in that situation. If that was your dad, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, as big a Giant fan as you might be, would you just be so easy to say, yeah, let him wear the number. Doesn't matter. My dead grandfather wouldn't have cared. I can only speak for myself. If Don LaGreca's number was retired by the Giants, there's no way that I would let anybody wear that number ever.
Our good friend Buster Olney of ESPN. Buster, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What does it feel like to go solo? For that long of a show? That is not an easy ride right there.
You know what? I'm going to be honest because we're friends. It's invigorating. Nobody's interrupting me. Nobody's correcting me. It's me. I love it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You've been let free.
Yeah, I don't want to do it all the time without them because I love them, but every once in a while, spread your wings. I like it.
Nice.
All right, so this Sunday Night Baseball is the Yankees and the Red Sox. So I'm sure you've been following both teams very closely. So let's start with the Yankees. What has happened? I'm trying to wrap my little mind around it, and I'm living it. What are you seeing from outside in?
Yeah, isn't it amazing that series in Fenway Park, it felt like the Red Sox exposed all these issues that the Yankees have. The bullpen, the glaring need for offense around Soto and Judge. And that really, I think, was also where some of the issues in the starting pitching began to develop. And I think those are fixable. I know from talking with Yankee people that they feel like that with Carlos Rodon that this is a blip and they'll be able to figure it out. I think they're confident that Luis Gil, this is not about being worn down during the year, that there's some mechanical adjustments that he can make with his fastball, and he'll get back on track. But some of the other issues, bullpen for sure, trying to enhance their production, especially in the infield, that has to change. They have to, get more out of the guy who's going to be hitting in front of Soto and Judge, and maybe Ben Rice is going to be that guy going forward.
There's so many guys that are also struggling. And, we've had phone calls that, Brian has to make moves, and I think Brian will make moves. But if guys like Torres don't hit and Volpe doesn't get back to what he was over the first 62 games, where he hit 290, and Verdugo, continues to slump, although he had 3. I think there's too many holes, Buster, to correct.
Well, I don't think that because, for me, the priority for the Yankees needs to be their bullpen. Because you're talking about a team that's going to be playing in October, and the old line, I think it was Buck Showalter was the first one I heard say it. In October, you win with bullpen and bench, and they need to upgrade their bullpen before we get to the trade deadline. That to me would be the priority, and then you hope that Torres performs better. You do have the opportunity in the next 25 days to see what becomes available in the marketplace. What opportunities there. You hope that Ben Rice continues to hit. Maybe that helps to plug that hole at first base, and then you see what happens at third base. But they, I agree with you. There are a lot of issues that they have on the table. I think the bullpen has to be the absolute number one priority to fix.
And, there's so many teams. The one across town, Buster, they need to improve their bullpen. Most of the teams that are in contention. So it's going to be a feeding frenzy. And a team like the White Sox could just sit there and go, okay, tell me what you're going to give me. Oh, I want more. They could hold people up for, I'm not saying pedestrian pitchers, but pitchers that might make a move, might make a difference. So I don't know who's going to get these arms and who are the teams that are trading these arms.
Yeah, and one of the, knowing I was coming out with you, I texted some executives today, and I said, okay, who are, right now, the best bullpen guys, if you want to go out in the marketplace and go get? First name I got back was Tanner Scott, left-hander from the Miami Marlins, who had some control issues last year, beginning of last year, beginning of this year. But it seems like he's moved beyond those again, and the perception is he's going to get moved. And then Michael Kopech, who in stretches, and we've seen it at Yankee Stadium, is absolutely dominant. And I think you're right that the White Sox are in an absolutely great position because the National League wild card race is such a mediocre muddle of teams that a lot of these clubs are going to stay in it and try to hang on to what they have, which means there's going to be very few sellers. Another guy is Carlos Estevez of the Angels, whose name is out there already. Maybe some teams will start to drop out of it. We're watching the Chicago Cubs offense continue to struggle. Maybe they put a couple of names out in terms of bullpen pieces. But at the moment, there's certainly more buyers than sellers, and there are not a lot of options to go to.
We're all supposed to be experts, Buster, and the Yankees are playing the Red Sox tonight. And I didn't think the Red Sox had any chance of being a competitive team, let alone be a wild card team. And now out of nowhere, they have they're tied for the best record in baseball over, let's see, I have it right here, over their last 19 games with the Houston Astros. How did this happen? This is not a star-laden lineup at all.
No, and they didn't spend any money during the wintertime. They've taken their payroll back something like $80 million in the last 5 years. And really, when you get right down to it, I mean, besides the fact I think everyone thinks that Alex Cora is one of the best game managers in baseball, obviously Andrew Bailey, Craig Breslow have done a good job with the pitchers they have, coming up with this pitching plan of, hey, throw your best pitch as often as you can and just pound the strike zone. But beyond that, you got to give a lot of credit to Chaim Bloom. Like, I think there are legitimate questions about whether or not he was necessarily the best general manager for that particular market, because he didn't seem to move with a lot of urgency. At the trade deadline, he wasn't aggressive, and that's, in the end, wound up costing him his job. But you know what? In terms of collection of athletic talent, he did a great job, and that's what we're seeing with the Red Sox. They, historically, as you know, they, generally speaking about these teams which have, banked home runs and good offensive teams, this is a very different Red Sox team where they're coming at you with athletes every day, challenging you on the basis as they did in that series in Fenway Park against the Yankees.
You look at this 3-game set, which ends on ESPN on Sunday. I'll tell you what, Buster, if the Red Sox come in and boat race the Yankees and the Yankees don't straighten things out, they're one game behind them in the American League. One game behind. It doesn't make sense. Who would have imagined?
No, it doesn't make sense. And the thing is, too, is that, the Red Sox are doing this without the guy who is probably their second-best hitter, and Tristan Casas. He's going to be back at some point. They're slugging first baseman. Jared Duran has gone from being a guy of great talent. He had some issues. He's talked publicly about, his challenges with mental health. He has been one of the 10 best players in baseball the last 2 months. He's just killing it right now. And you have Rafael Devers and, the other, as I mentioned, all the athletes on that team. It is not a great team for the Yankees to catch right now, which is why I think in the end, if they're going to wind up having, turning things around against the Red Sox this weekend.
It's on with Buster Only of ESPN right here on the Michael K Show. You mentioned Tristan Casas, right? I got to tell you. So I'm watching when the Yankees played the Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball, and you guys had him mic'd up. I never seen a guy talk that much. I mean, it was almost uncomfortable. It was unbelievable. The guy never shut up, Buster.
Well, I will tell you this. He was told going into it, hey, you know what, use the microphone for anything you want. If you want to, you can go talk to teammates in the dugout. And he took that absolutely at face value. I have not seen him since that night, but right after that game, I said, hey, nice job with the microphone. He just looked at me and goes, oh, no. And I kind of wondered if he was getting some feedback from some of his teammates and maybe his dad. He told that story about his dad being hauled in and being arrested after the incident when he was a little leaguer.
Yeah, that was if you haven't seen it, people, look for it on YouTube. It was, Ravi and Roberto and David took the inning off. I mean, they didn't have to say a word. I mean, he just talked and talked and talked. All right, so the other team, Mets are playing the Pirates tonight. It's kind of a really intriguing pitching matchup. Severino against Paul Skeens. So let me ask you about Skeens first. Is he better than people thought he was going to be? Obviously, he's the first pick in the draft, so you think he's going to be good. But he's come up, and he's really, really dominated, Buster.
Yeah, he has. And I think in some respect, the natural comparison everyone makes is with Steven Strasburg from early in his career, where he came up and, had the electric fastball and a great changeup. Skeens is more than that. I've seen pretty much every one of his starts, and it feels like that when he has games where he doesn't have A-plus stuff, he still finds a way. So for a guy who basically was a two-way player, it's amazing how evolved he is as a pitcher, and obviously a phenomenal athlete. He just seems to overpower hitters, throwing straight downhill from 6'7".
70 strikeouts in 52 and a third innings, 4-0, 2.06. So he's having a great start to his career. 9 starts so far. And Buster, I'd say that somehow Major League Baseball has to make sure he's on the All-Star team.
Start him.
Why not?
That to me, yeah. Chris Sale, it would obviously be a great candidate. I think Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler potentially of the Phillies. But the guy everyone wants to see, and I often think that, all professional sports seem to miss this. If everyone wants to see somebody, then put him out there. I would love to see Paul Skeens start for the National League in the All-Star game, but you and I know that's not going to happen.
All right, so let's look at the Mets. Mets just put 4 against the Nationals. They could have taken all 4, but their bullpen is their weak spot, and they're going to be another team that needs to get bullpen arms. And we were just talking with Andy Martino, and he said maybe they go the route of putting some of their starters there. But the Mets, to me, are also a surprise like the Red Sox. I didn't think that they would be a wild card contender this year, but I think they've exceeded everybody's expectations. Also, their offense is as good as anybody's, Buster.
2 things. Francisco Alvarez, to me, has demonstrated that he's not just a really good player. He's demonstrated that he's an excellent leader. You can see how the other players feed off him and his energy during the course of the game. Early in the year when he got hurt, when we had the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball, Carlos Mendoza looked at us. He goes, "Man, we really missed the catcher." And that it has demonstrated that since he came off the injured list, how important he is. So to me, that's really big. And Vientos has been a difference maker. When the Mets made the decision, look, let's get this guy in our lineup every day because he just flat out rakes. I agree with you. I mean, they have to plug the bullpen. They have to, like the Yankees, that has to be an absolute priority. My question is, I mean, we know the Yankees for this year, it's win now. It's all in World Series or bust because this might be your only year with Juan Soto. And with the Mets, I'm curious, behind the scenes, what does David Stearns do? Does he go in as aggressively as the Yankees need to go in? Because it feels like, this is just 1 year of a bigger picture movement that he's making. I got to believe with Steve Cohen as the owner, he's gonna be under some pressure to get some stuff done.
Now, one thing that confuses me, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, with the third wild card, we don't know who's in or out by the end of July. Baseball sees this. Well, why don't they push the trade down at least to the middle of August? Doesn't that make sense, Buster? So teams can declare what they are?
That is the sentiment of a lot of general managers, Michael. I will tell you, I like it. I like the fact that it makes decisions really difficult for teams. I think more of that is better. But I would say that we saw the beginning of a trend last year that'll help to mitigate some of the issues that you're talking about. The Angels made the decision at the trade deadline to keep Shohei Ohtani. They went out and made all these trades. They added. It didn't work out. And then at the end of August, the last week, if you remember, they dumped all these players into the waiver market and basically unloaded a lot of salary. And it was really unsavory that you had a team suddenly just dumping players to save a little bit of money at the end of the year. I know from talking with executives around baseball, they think that's going to become more of standard operating procedure where a team falls out of the race and they feel like, well, you know what? We're just going to dump the player and hope that somebody else picks him up and save a little bit of money. I can't stand it, but I would not be surprised if you see a bunch of players move at the end of August because they don't. That they have more information that they don't have at the trade deadline at that time.
All right, so to me, and we're talking with Buster Only of ESPN here on the Michael K. Show, to me this is, I don't know how I would handle this issue, but it's out there. During the game yesterday, Aaron Judge's personal hitting coach took a broadside swipe at the Yankees' offensive principles or development of players. Boone said you can't listen to everything. People are entitled to their opinions. But I would say that within the walls of Yankee Stadium, that can't be something that pleases them. So what do you do? Do you call Judge in and go, can you shut your guy up, or you just hope he goes away?
I agree with that 100%. I think you bring him in. Judge has demonstrated he's a great teammate. We saw the byplay with Marcus Stroman when Stroman was upset about Glaber's play at second base. I think that this is actually an easier one to solve because you just bring him in and you talk to him, and Judge will be nodding his head. I guarantee you, he'll be nodding his head the whole time saying, got it. I got it. I'll take care of it. It is divisive. It is ugly, and it's easy to sit on the sidelines when, your player is one of the best offensive players, of this generation. He's having this monumental year. I've mentioned in recent years that I thought the toughest job in baseball right now is hitting coach because everyone is sitting on the sidelines second-guessing you, but in the end, it's these personal hitting coaches who have the real power.
Right.
So if the guy comes into the stadium and he doesn't hit, guess who takes the brunt of that? It's the Major League hitting coaches. It stinks. I'm sure that the Yankees are addressing that.
Well, Buster, Sunday, you have Sunday Night Baseball with the guys, so I thank you for popping on with us as always.
All right, Michael. Always love talking to you.
All right, thank you, man. That's Buster Olney of ESPN, one of the good ones, and knows the game for sure. 1-800-919-3776.
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees. This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
I am, absolutely. Good afternoon, fellas. Listen, this is not the be-all, end-all. This is not going to solidify some championship or anything like that. But it's a culture builder. It's a roster builder. It's a talent builder. There's no bad thing about this. You can look at the draft picks and you can lament that all you want to. But in the end, what were you going to use them on? You got a guy that's been in the league for years. He's good for 19 to 20 a game. He's good for about 37% shooting from three, even though one season he shot 42% from three. Okay, he's an elite defender. He's had experience deep into the playoffs in his career as well. And most importantly, he's reliable. He's a guy that played all 82 games last year. The season when they played 83 games, when he had 82 games in the play, and he played all 83 games that year. He doesn't miss many games. The 3 seasons in his short career thus far, he's played every single game in that season. So he's reliable. He's dependable. He's a character guy. He can ball. He can defend. He fits right into the Tom Thibodeau system. He's good for 35 to 42 minutes a night. I don't think there's a downside to this. And plus, obviously, the chemistry, camaraderie, and what have you, wanting to go to the New York Knicks, forcing the Brooklyn Nets to make a deal, the Nets organization to make a deal with the New York Knicks for the first time since 1983. What's there to say? I couldn't be happier. I ain't going to lie to you. Still needing more, but I couldn't be happier.
Now, Stephen, do you think that the same way we've seen this elevated version of the other Nova kids that have come here, do you think we will see a better version of Bridges than we've ever seen?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if there needs to be. I mean, Jalen Brunson is clearly the star. We see Dante DiVincenzo. We always know he could shoot, and we've seen more of that, albeit periodically as opposed to consistently. Josh Hart is an energizer bunny and a rough rider. Come off the bench for you if you need him to, can start if you need him to, etc. And then you've got this guy. And so I think that when you look at his game, he's certainly going to get an opportunity to get his number of shots. His efficiency will determine how much better he looks and how much better his numbers are. But really, when you think about what Tom Thibodeau loves, if you are a guy who is addicted to defending, you're going to get minutes for Tom Thibodeau. And anything that you bring offensively is just an added plus. Well, he's got an offensive game to his repertoire, but he's really, really known for his defense. So you'll see a lot of him. I think you'll see him giving you about 40 minutes a night. And I think that, he'll benefit from it exponentially. I think that he'll average at least 20 a game.
Does this come at the expense of Isaiah Hartenstein?
Possibly. So be it. I don't want to lose Hartenstein. I'm not saying that in any way. But if you're telling me that I get to keep OG Anunoby and obviously I got Mikal Bridges and the loss is Hartenstein, then I'm going to have to live with that. Because you want to keep those two. You definitely want to do everything you can to sign OG Anunoby. You do not want him to depart for Philadelphia. You don't want him to depart for Oklahoma City or another franchise like that. You definitely want to keep OG Anunoby. But OG Anunoby and Bridges should be, and are the priority over Hartenstein, and I think that's the way it should be.
All right, so you were reporting earlier that Phoenix is done in the Kevin Durant business, so it looks like he could be traded. If you were the Knicks and you had a choice to make this deal and get a Durant or get a Bridges, which way would you have leaned?
Oh, my God, that's a difficult question because Mikal Bridges is a lot of things. He ain't no damn Kevin Durant. Let's get that out the way. We're talking about a superstar scorer, but I have to tell you, despite that, here's what I would tell you is the best way to answer that question. I would have used the opportunity of knowing that I could get Kevin Durant to say to the Nets, you ain't getting more than 3 first-round picks, okay, rather than 5. If I could have saved myself 2 first-round picks, I probably would have taken Kevin Durant before I gave up 5 first-round picks.
Right.
But if I had to give up just 3 first-round picks, then I would have gone the route of Bridges. He's about 8 years younger. Obviously, he defends. And most importantly, he fits into the culture. Kevin Durant doesn't fit into the culture. Kevin Durant doesn't fit into anybody's culture these days. He's known as a relatively a quiet superstar who wants to do nothing but play basketball and go home and keep to himself. So when you have that as your reputation, those are the kind of things that doesn't necessarily serve to ingratiate itself with the franchise and position you to ultimately be the leader that you need to be. That's the issue with Kevin Durant. Nothing about his game. He's good for 28 a night. He's a superstar in this game, one of the greatest offensive players this game has ever seen. And I'm certainly not implying that Mikal Bridges equates to him. But in terms of the Knicks culture, what they're building, and how it's not just about this year or next year, but it's about the long haul. To have Brunson with Hart and DiVincenzo and now Bridges, that's an incredible nucleus to have. As far as I'm concerned, if you're Tom Thibodeau, you should be ecstatic, but also cautiously ecstatic, because you need to do a great, great job. Because guess what? A guy by the name of Jay Wright can come and take your job any day of the week. Why? Because he coached at Villanova. All 4 guys. And they love him. So that's something that you got to be mindful of. But I think Tom Thibodeau is going to do a great job, and I think these players are tailor-made for him.
Everyone always says after a championship, we could see 3 or 4 more of these. And I may be a bit biased as a Celtics fan, but I look at that core in Boston, and once they get the Tatum deal done, you have this core of Tatum, Brown, and Holiday locked up for 4 or 5 years. They really do seem like they should dominate the East for a while. Do you expect that to be the case? And do you think the Knicks really could be a move away from legitimately competing with this Celtics team?
I think the New York Knicks, the Boston Celtics are definitely the favorites. They're definitely the favorites. There's no doubt about that. The flip side to it, however, is that I think that when you're an elite defensive team, you can cause a lot of problems. And you can't look at somebody as being a prohibitive favorite over the long haul. Things can happen when you amp up your defense and you tweak a player here or there. You look at the New York Knicks and how feisty they are. They're in the conference finals this year if it were not for the plethora of injuries. I mean, Julius Randle's down. Mitchell Robinson is down. OG Anunoby goes down. Josh Hart gets injured. And then Jalen Brunson breaks his wrist in the last Game 7. So there's a lot of that going on, and we understand that. All those dudes are healthy. Going up against the Boston Celtics, I still favor the Boston Celtics. But I think a series is a nail-biter.
All right, if you had a choice between this trade or getting Paul George, who's 34, or maybe Donovan Mitchell, doesn't seem like that's a fit now, would you still go with this trade or consider the others?
I would go with this trade because I think Bridges can give you that. You know, he can give you something offensively, but he really elevates things defensively. I'm a Donovan Mitchell fan. I have been from day one. I wish the New York Knicks had gotten him. I think he's a bona fide star in this league and a viable number 1 option, scoring option. But in the same breath, when we saw what we saw during these playoffs with the New York Knicks, I can't negate or escape the fact that they look damn good playing together. And what they can do together for the future is something that's worthy of fantasizing over.
Stephen A., I know you've got some other things to do. We appreciate you taking some time with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Y'all take care.
You got it.
I've had a hell of a day, by the way, Don. I'm White House yesterday. At Amtrak today, there's all kinds of crazy train delays.
Did you get to meet the president?
I did not, but I took a picture with a picture of the president and vice president. So,
who ran point on this whole thing then?
It was the Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
Okay.
It was White House adjacent. I'll explain later. It was the definition. Frank, you ever been? Have you ever been next door to the White House, Frank, or inside?
Hi, Frank.
Pretty interesting. A couple of things. Number one, did you take the Acela or the?
Oh, I'm so glad. God, you know what, Frank? I love you, you handsome SOB. You know why? Because I say this to everybody who asks me this. Everyone says to me, did you take the Acela? Hell no, I don't take the Acela. It is the biggest ripoff in travel today. It can be sometimes as much, Frank, as 150 more. Do you know how much shorter it is to take the Acela?
It's only like 20 minutes, right? Or a half
20 to 30 minutes faster. I'm not doing that for $200.
If it's on somebody else's dime, then I take the Acela. But
well, the president didn't pay for me, so
then that's your problem.
No, but it's not worth it if it's out of your own pocket.
No,
it's not.
Agree.
Frank, what do you think, Frank?
No, I think you're right, and I take it because it's not out of my pocket. A couple of things. They have a great car on there.
Oh, really?
It's a quiet car.
They have a quiet car. They have a quiet car on the Jabroni train too.
Yeah, but in this one, no one's allowed. You're not allowed on your cell phone. And if you get the right conductor, he comes through there and he starts admonishing people who are talking. So the one time I took it with my wife, and she kept trying to talk to me, and I would look at her and point to the sign. I can't talk to her.
Oh, you know what? By the way,
I follow the rules.
You know what that is? That's Diary of a Handsome Man. Only a handsome man can do that to his wife. That's Diary of a Handsome Man. Go ahead, Frank.
Let me give you a little White House talk. So I at the WNBA draft, I did it for Sirius, and Sonia Curry was there. So I know Sonia Curry because of her son's dad, talking to her. She says, let me introduce you to my friends. Her friends happen to be the Brink family. Cameron Brink's mother and father. Sonia was Cameron Brink's mom's roommate in college, and the two husbands were teammates at Virginia Tech. So Cameron Brink's mom, who, by the way, is from upstate New York, they introduced me to their son, young guy. He's like 6'8", too. The kid's a monster. He is one of the speechwriters at the White House.
Oh, wow.
Could not have been a nicer guy. So when I went down to he's a big fan of all the shows. So I tell him, hey, next time I'm in D.C., filling in on PTI, would you like to come to the studio? He says, of course he would. So I bring him over there. We take pictures. And as he's leaving, we spent the day together. He says, Frank, have you ever been to the White House? I said, finally, here it comes. And I said, believe it or not, no, I've never been invited. Though, I don't care what, Democrat or Republican, these people have the audacity never to invite
Maryland alum Frank Isola.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so he then said, well, the next time you're here, I'll take you to the White House. So there you go. Hopefully I'll get there at some point this summer.
Wow, that was a long setup to say you didn't ever go still.
I'm sorry.
All right, now listen,
I did a couple of name drops.
No, I enjoyed that. But before you go, I have one more thing about the train that I need to tell you. But let's dive into the basketball of it all. We're hearing the things that we're hearing today about OG Anunoby, what it could cost for the Knicks to keep OG. First thing I want to ask you, is there a line for... obviously, there's some line where the Knicks will not go further in terms of what they're willing to pay OG. Where do you imagine that line would be?
It's a tough one because, his son, Leon Rose's son, represent him. There's a whole connection there. But also, my only hesitation about OG Anunoby would be his history of injuries. Remember when Toronto won the championship, he was unavailable. Now they won without him. And obviously you see the impact that he has when he plays. I think if he had been available against Indiana, I think the Knicks would have ended up beating Indiana. I think they go to the conference finals, and then who knows what happens. So I definitely think he has value. I think this is a guy that, when you trade for a guy like that, you don't necessarily let him walk. I think right now it's just a lot of talk. I think that OG Anunoby will be back with the Knicks, and he provides something that they need from that position. He could shoot and he could defend multiple positions on the court. I think he's going to be back. I understand what you're saying. I think he's going to be on the Knicks now.
Now, do you believe my theory that the Knicks are the second best team in the conference and the Celtics are the one team they're going to have to try to get over, or do you think some other teams will be a problem for New York?
Well, Miami's always going to be tough, and I think that, Jimmy Butler had a really poor season this year. And also remember, too, the last 2 years with the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis has been hurt in the playoffs. I think, in fact, he's only played, 2 games? The last 2 years, that was last year. In fact, they didn't win a game. Giannis hasn't been on the court for a win in 2 full seasons now. So I still think Milwaukee, who did give the Knicks some problems, Damian Lillard doesn't worry me too much. But I think the one thing you saw during the Knicks series, and I think I do the radio show with Brian Scalabrine, and he had said this before the playoffs began, he thought that the one team that would really give the Celtics problems would be the Knicks, because he felt their mental and physical toughness would be a big-time challenge. for the Boston Celtics. And if you look at what happened to Boston, and to their credit, you finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference, you're going to get breaks. So they didn't play Jimmy Butler in the first round. That's obviously not the Celtics' problem. And then, Donovan Mitchell didn't play the last 2 games of the series. Neither did Tyrese Halliburton. So they caught a couple of breaks. But I think you also look at how good they were against a team like Dallas. And now that they've won, you know how it is. You win a championship, you just carry yourself differently. Your confidence level is different. And Tatum and Brown are outstanding. But let's remember, you look at Kyrie and Luka Doncic. Imagine if Luka and Kyrie Irving as the next 3 guys in their starting lineup were Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Al Horford. You would think about them a little bit different, too. So Boston has a good thing going. I would think rightfully so going into the season. They're going to be the favorite. Denver is, I think, still a great team. So Boston also caught a break there with Minnesota, knocked them out. But to go a long way to answer your question, I do think that the Knicks right there with Milwaukee and with Miami would challenge for the second best record. I don't like Philadelphia. I still don't believe in them because I know Joel Embiid's a great player, but to me, he's always hurt in big moments, always a little out of shape. I'm not too worried about him.
Am I being a Celtic fanboy to believe that once they get this Tatum deal done, presumably in the next couple of days, and this core is locked in for a while, that if you're a Lakers fan, if you're my buddy Ty Butler, one of the many Laker fans that I know, this championship lead might get to 19 or 20 before the Lakers get to 18? Do you think that's a reach for me to feel that way?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, look at the age of both Brown and Tatum, and you would know this by being a Celtics fan. The biggest difference, I think, between those 2 guys this year, even opposed to last year, it's that they became playmakers. Look at the game that Jason Tatum had. Was it game 1 or game 2 when he had the 12 assists? I think it was game 1. And I just think he was making plays that maybe a year ago he would have just taken a bad shot. Now he makes that extra pass, and maybe the addition of Drew Holiday has a lot to do with that, because Drew Holiday is a selfless player. He's a great leader. He's a great role player. Doesn't care about scoring. He just wants to win. And I think, yesterday, I think they combined for 17 assists, Brown and Tatum did. And I think if they're going to play like that, it's only going to make them that much tougher to beat. And I think, and Brown, you know this, Peter, this idea of talking about I don't get respect. Well, last year the media did vote you to the All-NBA team, which allowed him to get the $300 million contract he got. And now he's an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's a Finals MVP. The media votes on that. So I think that part that he kind of always went down that road, there's no need to do that. I think Jaylen Brown now realizes and should realize that he's considered one of the top players in the league. He carries himself like that. He plays like that. So I kind of agree with you. I think if you're looking to add banners, I think you'll see them in TD Garden before you see them in Crypto.com arena. That's for sure.
We're talking to Frank Isola from Yes here on the Michael K. Show.
The handsome.
The handsome. I'm sorry. I thought it went without saying.
No. It's radio.
The people on Yes can see the picture.
Right,
but the people on radio that don't know, you're missing out. If the Knicks run it back, which I think they will, is that enough to close the gap, or do you think they have to do something else?
What's funny about that? I think sometimes, teams fall into this situation where they overreact to losing, and I think a perfect example of that would be the Milwaukee Bucks. They got rid of their coach, and then they made the big mistake of trading Drew Holiday to Damian Lillard. And then I think there are other teams that you sometimes overreact to success, and that isn't always the best thing. Maybe Denver was kind of a case to that because their bench got worse, I thought, after they won a championship. So I think the Knicks, you do have to be realistic about it, how everything turned out. And, they have a lot of good role players. Say like a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein, who was really good to them. I got a feeling like if he would have priced himself out of the market, which I'm not sure that's going to happen, but I think like the Knicks are so good in terms of developing players and finding players. Maybe this is something, or this wasn't something that they did, for basically 20 years. I think they'll be able to find guys like that. So, yeah, in some ways you want to run it back, but even with a guy like Julius Randle, if there was a trade out there that would include him, I don't think they should hesitate to do that. So I think when you want to win, you got to be aggressive and make smart moves. And I think Brad Stevens is a perfect example of that. They kept their core together, but trading Marcus Smart, getting Porzingis, and then, of course, the home run trade was the one for Drew Holiday. So making those kind of adjustments could help a team like this, I think. Absolutely.
Even though they're different positions, could you argue, and let me say there's a difference already in that Boston adored. I mean,
Trust me, Don, Michael.
And I loved him too. I love Marcus Smart.
But here's the comp. So, listen, I bought a Marcus Smart jersey. The only new Celtics jersey I own, newer than Reggie Lewis, is Marcus Smart. Okay, but they were willing to trade him, even though he was a core guy. I have said before, and I don't know if you agree, that Julius Randle, while he didn't play at the end of the season, he is culturally, in terms of the sort of lunch pail to work every day kind of player. He kind of is the mentality of this team. But could that be the same kind of thing where you have to move someone like Randle, and even though it hurts the fans and the team to do it, maybe that's the piece you move to take that next step forward?
No, I think you're right. I think you've seen throughout history, trades like that, happen a lot of times where you get rid of some guy that's been a part of it, but in order to take that next step. And again, I think the Knicks are smart about this stuff. I think they know they got a taste of what could be, and I think the disappointing part was all those guys being hurt and not being able to beat Indiana. I thought the Knicks were better than Indiana, but I think you're right. Sometimes, and that's why it comes down to management. Sometimes having the guts to make a move like that. And Brad Stevens really rolled the dice. Because remember when Boston made the trade for Marcus Smart, and, they didn't know about the Damian Lillard situation yet, but really the big knock on Boston right there was, well, where's your toughness going to come from? Who's going to be your defensive guy? And then what happens? They end up getting Drew Holiday, and all due respect to Marcus Smart, I agree with you. I love him. I still love him as a player. I love everything about him. But Drew Holiday's a better player, and I think Boston willing to take that leap of faith, and I think the Knicks have to be in that same department because right now you don't know how long it's going to be with Brunson and some of these guys that they have. These opportunities don't always come along very often. You don't always get back to a Game 7 of the second round. You're one win away from finally going to a conference final. So right now for the Knicks, now's the time to be aggressive, and let's face it, they have the assets to do that.
Do you think Danny Hurley did the right thing staying at UConn?
Yeah, I always felt like he was going to stay there. I just think, you guys would know this. When you're from the East Coast, he's born in Jersey City, went to high school there, worked in Newark, then got his first job on Staten Island, went to Rhode Island. At 51, all of a sudden you're going to get up and you're going to move to your first NBA job is going to be the Lakers with a 40-year-old LeBron. I don't know. I never believed he was going to do that. I think for the Lakers it was smart. I don't think for Danny Hurley. I think what Danny Hurley did was he told teams like Boston, not that job's available, or the Knicks or the Nets or Philadelphia, maybe even Washington, that, hey, you know what? I'd be willing to stay somewhere on the East Coast for an NBA job. I think he will coach in the NBA within 5 years, but I don't think the Laker job was right for him. And if the money were nuts, maybe he would have taken it. I guess he did kind of say that. But my boy Scalabrini's been saying for 2 years that the best coach not in the NBA is Danny Hurley, and apparently the Lakers felt that way as well.
You think that NBA job might be the Knicks down the road?
I mean, 3-4 years down the road, maybe. But, Tom, I know this about Tom Thibodeau, as you guys know. He's addicted to coaching. So it's not like Tom's thinking, maybe I'll coach a few more years, and that'll be it for me. And I think Tom did such a great job this year, and I think you look at player development, we all love Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson didn't score like this when he was on Dallas. Look at what's happened to Julius Randle since coming to the Knicks. Look at really what's happened to all those guys. I mean, you look at the players that everybody fell in love with. Josh Hart's on his 5th team. Dante DiVincenzo is on his 4th team. So all these, everyone wanted to give Jay Wright credit, and Jay Wright's done a good job. But where was all the Villanova culture when these guys were playing for the 3rd and 4th team? It was, Tom brought a lot of this stuff out. So, I mean, it's something for the Knicks to focus on, but I don't think Tom's going anywhere anytime soon.
Last thing I got for you is unrelated to the Celtics or the Knicks, but the Mavericks. I got to tell you, man, no one hears this part. Everyone only seems to hear when there's a negative part, and if you're the kind of person who then gives credit when credit is due, I don't think anyone ever hears that, but I'm going to do it anyway, and we've been doing it the last couple of weeks. What immense joy I got out of watching Kyrie Irving in this playoffs. Obviously on the floor it was hit or miss in the finals. No one was particularly good in the final, but throughout the playoffs he obviously certainly had his moments. But Frank, the guy that he was to that team, how he carried himself, even yesterday as the confetti was coming down and he was waiting for every player and staff member on that team.
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.
Hi. Welcome to ENN.
Ray Rowe.
On TV.
Brought to you by our friends at Security Dodge. Go see Michelle Scalisi. And
Come get some.
Yeah.
I'd like to start off tonight's big ENN by saying good evening to Michael.
Don.
What was that from?
I don't know, but I enjoyed it.
Don.
I'd like to say good evening to myself.
Mets win.
I am currently outdoors. I'd like to say good evening to Michael and the caller.
How often do you see batting practice? I'm curious about that.
Whenever they're away, I watch the batting practice show.
Mets win.
1, 2, 3 inning for Diaz. So
Yay! And for a quick throwback, let's say good evening to Don.
Let me talk to you, Don. Don.
And to Don.
Spit in your face.
That's how you feel, Don. And here we are again, talking about the New York Giants and the spitting of faces. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if that's accurate, but we did start the not start the show. We spent plenty of time on the Malik Neighbors number controversy. Malik has now since spoken, guys, about what happened with him procuring the number one. Let's hear from Malik Neighbors. Do you guys have that handy by any chance?
We had a lot of situations dealing with what number I was going to wear. Reached around the locker room, asked about numbers. But I feel like this was the best route that I went. Grateful and thankful to the family for letting me wear this number. I know this number has been worn for, 80 to 90 years. So for me to, be chosen to wear this number, only favorite to God, I'm God's child. So he put me in the right position.
Well, you can thank God and Ray Flaherty's family because they approved, and Malik Neighbors now will wear number one for your New York Football Giants.
89 years specifically. He retired in 35.
I have some more information on Ray Flaherty.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Please.
He's credited with inventing the screen pass. He was a World War II veteran, served in the Navy, best friends with Bing Crosby, and a Hall of Famer.
Strong. I'd love to hear the conversation, Don, inventing the screen pass. You know what I'm thinking? We keep chucking this thing 30, 40 yards. What if we just, don't? Just go ahead and just throw it a few yards.
It's funny how things are discovered and why they never thought of it before. Sideways pass. Throw everybody off. But again, this is during the time of overtime, playoffs.
No, the best one is the invention of the forward pass. I love that because that's common vernacular, and I love thinking about that. What if there's only one way to throw the ball? Obviously, backwards. What if we threw it forwards? Oh, my God, you psycho. What a lunatic. Forward pass? So
yeah, it's really, it is one of the great upsets of all time that sports survived. When you think of the infancy of sports, on how nobody thought to throw the football. It was a grid, the gridiron. It was a grid. And hockey, you can only move forward after passing the puck backwards. Baseball, when the ball bounced over the fence, they considered it a home run. Right? Didn't the infancy of basketball, they bring out a ladder and get the ball out of the basket?
Yeah, it's a peach basket.
So it's like somebody could have just said, you know what, this is all stupid. Let's not do this anymore. But somebody said, no, let's improve it. But the original ideas were borderline stupid.
Borderline? And, Don, you didn't even mention the fact that they thought, let's put the goalpost in the front of the end zone. Now, what if someone hits it and dies?
Yeah, but again, it was during wartime. People died. A few people might die. Yeah, but we're honoring the goal line. The field's 100 yards. We're not going to count the end zone. So put the goal. But somebody might get decapitated. Hey, you want to play football? It's all right. It's any wonder we survived as people. Now, there's a time in the world you'd attempt to have 10 kids just because you knew 5 weren't going to survive. Like, it was just it's a weird. But back in the time, it was a different world. How did we persevere? How did we do it? Because people said we can change.
If I could, you know who said it? The first person to say it. It was Sylvester Stallone. It was Rocky.
when he solved the Cold War.
You could change. We can all change. You know, that was actually the moment, in my opinion. All right, let's go back in time. This will be fun. Let's go way back, Michael. Tell me if this sounds familiar from WABC.
With the rest of the lineups and his own pregame comments, here is my partner, Michael Kay.
Well, thank you, John. The lineup that Scott Sanderson will face for the Boston Red Sox, of course,
What in God's name just happened?
What? You don't hear it?
Is that actually what was that, Anthony?
It was John and Michael's first broadcast together. You didn't hear anything?
No.
Are you being serious? Like what you played on your ends, you could hear John Sterling and Michael Kay?
Yeah.
Well, you heard nothing.
No. Well, what I heard was almost as if somebody was being choked out underwater.
You guys have been in this business a long time.
That is crazy. I wonder if the audience heard the choked out garbles or Michael Kay and John Sterling. I don't know.
I heard those garbles. I didn't hear anything.
Oh my God.
That was interesting.
Yeah, Kofi, our good friend Kofi, dug out the first broadcast. He says it's on YouTube, which I never kept.
Well, why would you not keep? See, you get mad at me.
That's see, now that's almost
if that were me, Peter. I'd have it.
But right now,
Don would go too far.
You'd have an extension built on your house for 33 years of broadcast.
But it would have been worth it.
For what?
Because look at now we want to hear it, and all we heard was somebody getting choked out underwater.
Anthony, why didn't we hear that? You heard voices?
Yeah.
Well, something's wrong on your end.
You know what?
On my end?
Yeah.
It might have been on our
Dan Grossa coming up next.
Well, how could it be on our end? I mean, all three of us heard the same thing.
The question is, what did the audience hear?
Hey, I want to know what the audience heard.
Okay,
I'll live through it if the audience actually heard it. Then I guess that's the sacrifice you make.
So I heard the same thing you guys heard. It sounded like static. Like, it didn't sound like complete voices at all. Like, it sounded like a whole radio.
So Anthony is the only person who heard it. It's like speaking in one language. He's in the same room as you, Anthony. Jacob didn't hear it.
I had to put it in queue just to hear the actual call.
Nope, everyone heard what we heard. It's like Anthony has a dog whistle. He's the only person who just heard the broadcast.
Yeah, he hears John and Michael.
The tweets are rolling in. So Anthony Perry says it sounded like the first broadcast from the 1936 Olympics in Berlin. Well, maybe I'll visit the site tomorrow.
Right.
Someone else says it. Yeah, they just heard the underwater.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was gonna say, like, if you visited in Berlin, you would find a puddle with a skeleton in it. Because that person got choked out. Because that's what I heard.
I wish you guys could hear the shows that happened before the show. Like I won't say it on the air. It was a private conversation. Like Michael's takes on my trip to Berlin.
Yeah, it's not good.
There's so many things that happen, guys, off the air that are just so show-worthy, but also not. Let's hear from, let's go to the Jets side for a moment and hear from Joe Douglas on his thoughts on this Jets roster.
I wish this is garbled.
When things did hit the fan last year, I think one of the more encouraging things was how the team stayed together and how hard the team played. There was never wavering of effort or togetherness, and I thought that was one of the silver linings of a difficult season. But as the team stands now, I feel like this has been a remarkable training camp, and I feel like this is a great collection of talent and character, as good of a collection of people as I've been around in 24 years. And so really I'm excited about this journey. I have no idea where it's going to end, but I think this is a great group to lock arms and travel with.
You know, at least I have been pretty critical. You know, he picked Zach Wilson. You know, he had that one great draft with Garrett Wilson and Sauce. I get that. But this roster is a really good roster of football. He's put together a really good roster. So now we see. If they can perform. You can't knock him for the roster that he's put together.
Honestly, because we all know the history of the Jets, and if you want to be right, the way to bet is it's going to go sideways, because that's what happens with this organization all the time. But if this is any other team in football, I think most people would feel like they're right there to win a championship. I think the only thing standing in their way is the respect I have for a very, very difficult AFC. But when you look at the talent assembled, they've got an outstanding chance to make a run at this thing. They do. I mean, they've had a great camp. Everything looks, really, honestly, even with the holdout, I mean, everything really is pointing towards that. It just, people are hesitant to do it because there's certain teams, right? If it's the Jets, if it's the Knicks, of course it's going to go sideways because it always seems to. But put that aside. You could have said the same thing about the Patriots before they won or the Saints before they won. You know, maybe it's just time. Maybe this is the year they finally figured it out. And you just had to go through one last painful moment last year before it was finally all going to come together. Why can't that be right?
Now, if you want to go to the other side of audio that makes you want to absolutely off yourself from the New York Jets, let's hear from Joe Douglas attempting to discuss what's going on with Hassan Reddick. How about that one? It's not what you want, by the way. There's a series of them that we could play. Really, all of them are the exact same.
I think just play me and John again.
Wait, you're not hearing that one either? What is going on?
Let's talk about respect. That's the name of the game when it comes to
I already put this audio back in. You want to try it again? Maybe we'll get 1945.
Oh, the John and Michael audio?
Yeah, why not?
Joe Douglas?
All right, let's hear that then. Let's hear that then first. John and Michael. Now, is that serious? Are you being serious or is it a joke?
I literally reinserted it, and I hear it fine.
Well, thank you, John.
Wow. Yep. Nope. Kicking and screaming. Might have a chance to survive. Nope. Dead.
Sorry, Kobe,
Vegan Fred, what Nicky said, his dog Rocket perked up the moment that clip was played. He heard everything. Joey High Roller said it sounded like a number station from the Soviet Union. David Amondi said 100% someone getting choked out while gargling. Good job, man.
Yes says they heard it.
Yes is hearing it?
Yes is. All right, well, it's nice. A very select
Michael,
few.
Kofi sent it to you. Did you listen?
I didn't listen. I didn't listen to myself.
No, really? Even something as a proud moment like that?
Well, I mean, it wasn't my finest broadcasting.
Well, because it was your first.
Yeah.
But Don, you know Michael's lying when he says he doesn't like himself.
Well, you know, when I first started doing when I first started doing Rangers, I started calling play-by-play guys to get advice, and one of the guys I called was Bob Wischusen, and Bob said, "Whatever you do, under no circumstances, listen back to the first broadcast. Don't do it." And I never did.
But you still have still have the tape.
I still have it. I can if I want, and maybe it'll be fun to do. But he's like, because he goes, it's not going to be great to you. But then it's just going to get better.
That was Wischusen told you that. This is a guy who listens to his voice constantly, even when he's not talking.
You know what? Why do you always have to?
Because it's true. We're going to have on Bob next week, but really, Bob loves the sound of Bob.
I think he loves the sound of his voice, but I think he wants it to make sense and all. I mean, no, I think it was very good advice because you could lose your confidence because your first one's never going to be your best one, especially if you've never done it before. But I would think after all these years and all these Emmys and everything that you've accomplished in your life, just for blank and giggles, you'd go back and listen to the first one.
Obviously, the gods of broadcasting don't want it to happen. I'm hearing gargling when they play it.
Listen, I agree. I mean, I don't know if it's gods of broadcasting or just our current state, but you should want to hear it.
Let's hear something that actually has audio quality, and by that I mean the actual physical qualities of auditory.
Well, someone sent me what Yes played the first time. I can't hear that either, so I don't know how I'm hearing something that you guys aren't. But
I'm just telling you.
I think we stop playing it and never speak of it again.
Yeah, I'd like for us to move on.
But never mind us, the audience. The 98.7 audience heard what we heard.
I'd rather do 2 more interviews with people who are being forced to leave our radio station than listen to that non-existent audio again.
You could make the case that since 4:45,
it's gone downhill.
This has been the most awkward radio I've ever been involved in. And believe me, I've worked here on Tuesday will be 23 years. And awkward's the title
I
of the
believe
book.
it was during this week, Don, that you and I did a show at the U.S. Open where the tent blew out onto the railroad tracks and we almost got killed, and then we had to do it in a Hummer.
Yes.
Yeah, the show, I mean.
That was a Met game because we weren't allowed on the premises.
Oh, yeah.
We had to be out on that wooden plank.
The walkway to the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and we almost died. Not from the thing falling, but the electrical storm that was going on through all the electronics.
That's not hyperbole. We did almost die.
And so we actually, and I had to be longer because Michael had to leave early to go do the game. but actually doing the show from the back of a Hummer. Believe me, that was Marconi worthy compared to what we've gone through since 445 from an awkward standpoint.
Now, I think we actually will have audio of Joe Douglas.
I doubt it.
Talking about
Not the way to bet.
Hassan Reddick.
Nothing's changed from our end. Obviously, a ton of respect for Hassan and awaiting his arrival. And looking forward to when he does. He's going to be welcomed with open arms.
Of all the things that we had to hear, that had to come through?
No, it's about respect, Michael.
So you're afraid to defend a guy? He's not honoring his contract.
No, it's
You've
respect.
been in fierce negotiations with this guy. It's not working out, but don't insult him.
I respect him.
See, that's why I could never be a GM, because I'd be like you right now, Don. I'd go, this guy's a hack.
Well,
he backed out on his contract.
But can't you just honor that? Listen, this is not good. We've traded for a guy. He's not honoring his contract. We hope it gets done. We love him as a player. Otherwise, we wouldn't have traded for him. But this is not good.
But again, that goes to my theory that we just don't get truth. There's just we don't. That's why hearing from most athletes and executives, it's a waste of breath.
I don't think the phrase goes, "The lie will set you free." The truth will set you free.
The truth will set you free. I like that as a potential drop. I'd like to say it right now. Dak Prescott has spoken. He says there's no deadline on talks with the Cowboys, but the fact that there's no deal, quote, says a lot.
So he can be honest.
You know what? Dak has been pretty honest.
I thought we had a clip
far.
there. No clip?
No clip.
So it was
no
just
clip.
you. Oh, okay.
He says, I think it says a lot if it is or isn't finished.
I'll get over it. You've already pocketed almost $150 million.
I know, but I love the honesty.
Well, what does it say? Don't tell me it says something. What does it say? Does it say Jerry Jones hates you? Does it say that they don't think you're a good quarterback? What does it say, Dak?
No, no. That, you know what? Now you're being that guy because you may think he has nothing to complain about, but Don, it does say something. You don't. Patrick Mahomes is never getting within a sniff of might leave. They're saying we're not quite sure yet about whether you're the guy. And by the way, a lot of people believe that they're not sure if Dak's the guy.
Then that's fine.
He knows what it says.
It's not like he's been making minimum wage. He's done very, very well. And if the Cowboys want to wait, and if he's as good as he thinks he is, he'll get it from somebody else, or he'll get it from the Cowboys.
Right.
I don't disagree with you, but those things aren't mutually exclusive. It still says something.
Yeah, and he's going to play, and he's got a chance to shut him up.
And he's there. It's not like he's not showing up.
Somebody has to get ball is CD Lamb.
That's right.
Hey, did you see what Steph Curry got? You haven't even mentioned that.
I was going to say, speaking of some cash dollars, don't look for Steph Curry at the soup kitchen anytime soon. The Warriors extended him a year for $62 million. Now, guys, I don't know if you've seen this. This comes on the heels of like a couple of weird posts on social media, like an Instagram story where Steph Curry said, "Hey, LeBron, stop sending me pictures like this." And it was a picture of him in a Lakers uniform. People have started to maybe see, could there be a future in which Steph doesn't close out as a Warrior? It's just a one-year extension, but at least for this year, $62 million to play in the Bay.
But that assures him 3 more years at about $60 million a year. It's like 3 years, $170.
And 60 plus. I think Tatum eventually will get to 60, but that's later in the extension. So he is.
So it probably means it's. So wouldn't that mean if it's 3 years from now that's the end?
You would think so. Yeah, and also, I think that somewhere in Southern California, Scott Boras is gleefully rubbing his hands and go, okay, that's where we start for Soto.
And be honest, Michael, if that's the case, you think the Yankees are going 60
They could.
A year?
They could. I mean, I don't know. They could.
It's just crazy, right? No offense to Curry, but like, God.
Now, he doesn't seem as if he's slowed down at all, but 3 years from now, what is he, a 38-year-old player?
Yeah.
He's 36 now.
So he's 39 in 3 years. See how I did that math so quickly?
That was so good.
You got a brand new building, right? And they're not, they don't look like they're on their way to winning a championship again. So, but it keeps them relevant, having one of the best players in the game, be a forever Warrior. That probably has value there.
Should have been a Nick.
So in 28, Jason Tatum's money will surpass him. But by then, that probably won't be the most money.
Yeah, there'll already be somebody making 70 by then, right?
Speaking of setting records, Indiana's the Fever's Caitlin Clark has broken the WNBA record for three-pointers in a season.
By rookie.
Holy crap.
I'm sorry, WNBA rookie record for three-pointers.
Come on, know your
records.
records.
Thank you very much. Nuts, please. And an 84-80 victory over Connecticut, who is second in the league.
Now, this was the worst team in the NBA, in the WNBA last year. That's how they got the pick, right? And I think they're like around 500.
Yes, and after a real bad start, too.
Yeah, no, it went from early on, you thought this team was in the absolute toilet. Started the season 1-8. Looked like they could finish last. Now they're in the 7th spot. And as of this moment, guys, you would have Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese both making the playoffs. The Fever at the 7th spot, Chicago at the 8th. And, of course, your New York Liberty at 26-6, the best team in the league.
This is a championship on the horizon.
I don't know if you guys saw this come down the pike today, but Netflix announced the release of Mr. McMahon.
I did see this. Yeah.
A documentary series chronicling the rise and fall of Vince McMahon. It's coming to Netflix on September 25th from producers Chris Smith and Bill Simmons. Chris Smith did Tiger King. Bill Simmons of writing incredibly long articles fame. I know people who worked on this film. They interviewed a ton of people, including hours and hours with Vince McMahon. And obviously, of course, over the years that they were making this, it started in 2018. The stories that came later unfolded as they were making it. And those stories are now rolled into this film as well. It's 6 episodes starting on September 25th.
Did they interview you?
No.
Then I don't.
Then I'm out.
No
good.
interest.
No, I'm out.
I'm good.
Man was traveling to Germany for that company. I got to hear from you.
If the only way I'd watch it if you or my brother's interviewed. If not, I'm out.
Is your brother?
Listen, maybe your brother made the cut. Although this is a different kind of doc relative to the kinds that me and your brother pop up in a lot. Obviously, different producers, different network. Tone is very serious. But I know that they sat down with the family. The biggest superstars are in it. It should be something.
And I don't know if you saw that they announced there's going to be a 30 for 30 for the New York Sack Exchange.
I did see that, too.
You want to talk about someone who should be interviewed in a movie, Don. It's you. It's you in that movie.
Well, I introduced them when they were honored at the Jet Bronco game. I was on the field for that. I was your MC.
How did you wrest that from Wischusen?
I don't know.
Usually he lets you do the first minute of the third quarter.
No, the decision was that I had to do it, and I did it. And you helped me through it, Michael, because you told me don't get crazy when you start hearing your voice back, because you have done it before as a veteran of the old-timers day and all the different ceremonies at Yankee Stadium. So I appreciate it. Thank you. That was 21 years ago, believe it or not.
Wow.
Whoa. You were a child.
03.
He was prepubescent.
And that was in the beginning of Repugdon.
Imagine that Repugdon on the field, Peter.
Oh no.
They tried to slap a uniform on him and make him a center. I mean, really, it was not good.
Oh, my God.
Let's relax there, but, he's not wrong. It's rude, but not wrong.
By the way, that's the name of Michael's 21st book. Rude, but not wrong. Michael K.
It's going to be good.
Is there no worse Mike situation? Because I've never... Actually, I did once do stuff on a mic in a baseball stadium, and it was pretty annoying. But is that the worst, Michael, to bounce back?
Well, I mean, the new stadium, it's completely different. The old stadium, it was really tough. Now they figured it out. They have different speakers around the ballpark, but just one big speaker in center field, it would come back at you 5 seconds after you said it.
Speaking of really tough, let's wrap this show up. That'll do it for the K Show and ENN. Brought to you by our friends at Security Dodge. Go enjoy Make this the summer event.
This has been a presentation of the Yes Network. Soaring into history. Your home for award-winning coverage of the New York Yankees.